Hello. If you can hear us, if you can see us, then please do let us know, because hot damn, we're excited today.
Guess who's back? Back again. He's back, and he's not going to keep on saying because nobody needs that, but hell, it's good to be back. I have had one hell of a roller coaster this last month, and I am really glad to have stepped off from said roller coaster and look at the hell I've been through in my past and go, well, that was something that happened. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, it's been sad times, kind of around the bend of the last month, but we're so glad to kind of be on the other end of just driving through a tunnel of awful.
Yeah.
I cannot express how deeply happy, literally the absolute favorite unrivaled birthday gift is Andy coming back to us. Not even close.
Because if you didn't know already, and if you didn't know already, I'm about to tell you, it's Sotek's birthday week, which makes me happy. How does it feel to finally be 16, you youngster? To finally have reached the point of being able to call yourself legally in some countries an adult.
Yeah. That's why this can't go any further or become anything nicer. It's because it's got that. Man, it's sad in my head being like, I'm twice that. A little over twice that.
Yeah. Well, let's just not go with how many times past that I am. Oh, man. So, yeah, I can't express how happy I am to not just be here, but to also be here to celebrate Sotek's birthday, because it's just good that we've all managed to get around this planet one more time. Oh, I'm always going to call out a quick new member when they come in. Thanks, Russ. That's super appreciated. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. So this is kind of like one of those wombo combos you don't get too often, where it's a birthday and Andy's back simultaneously. It's great. It's awesome. Today is a day of celebration, and we're really, really pleased to
fuck you.
No, he's not. Good.
Oh shit! Thanks for that one, Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah, someone shoot that guy. But want to thank you all so much for all of your patience and your support and a lot of things. We really appreciate y'all supporting all the different Lorebeard shows that have been going on in the meantime. Huge thanks to the 40K crowd for they did a lot of great stuff, kind of holding everything up while we were running around. I in particular was running around with like a chicken with my head cut off. But it's good to be back. It's very good to be back.
I mean, is it good to be back?
Why y'all being mean? Andy's gonna leave again if y'all don't start behaving yourselves. What the hell is all of this shit?
Right. So, if you haven't caught all our posts, the very sad news at my end was that my father died last month, which is why I was away. I'm going to be incredibly blunt about it because I'm autistic and blunt about almost everything anyway. So that has been absolute hell at this side, not just for myself, obviously, but for my family and my extended family and friends. Also, if you're the sort that likes to do GoFundMes, there's a GoFundMe somewhere for my mum, because she's an incredibly poor, old, blind woman who now finds herself without a husband by herself, and also because she doesn't have a bank account with no way to access money. So I panicked. I went, and it was nice people like, for example, good old Ryan over there, who said, just do a GoFundMe. We want to help you out, and we will. So because of Ryan, we set that up. And because of him, my mum now has a nice little nest egg, which she can hopefully fall back on when she is in times of trouble. It's brilliant. So thank you all for your generosity who dropped by.
Yep. And Hawk
I'm actually filling up slightly. Fuck.
Hawk will be posting that link in chat for anyone that is so inclined, because they're still accepting stuff on that. So if you want to help out and leave a sweet little message, if you're so inclined, we would be deeply appreciated.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
We'll send you kisses in your dreams. It's true.
I am looking forward to haunting people's dreams with kisses.
Yep.
I didn't realize I was doing this, but now
it's
excited.
The best kind of threat and the worst kind of offer. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, so that's all aside. Today is going to be a good one. Why is it going to be a good one? Because obviously it's Sotek's birthday, so he gets to choose the topic of his choice. So all those topics that we've been sitting on for a wee while saying we're going to do, screw those. We're diving straight into one of those fun, exciting topics that you will not expect coming from Sotek. And in fact, it's a controversial one today. What is it that you would like us to discuss, Ryan?
Yeah, so today we decided to throw aside all of the dramatic chat of elves, all the duplicitous leanings of chaos, and all of the morally depressing, but although mostly interesting aspects of men, and we're going right back to the thing that got me into Warhammer in the first place was a man walking up to a 10-year-old child and going, "Would you like a T-Rex riding on a bigger T-Rex?" And me being like, "Oh, because truly, it's the best pitch you could possibly offer a 10-year-old boy."
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun one because we are, of course, discussing what I am going to pitch as one of the most 80s of characters you are ever likely to see. You'll find out why I consider it one of the most 80s when I dive into my little intro, because Kroq-Gar deserves that title, as you will soon see.
Also, as a fun little fact, so powerful is Kroq-Gar and so powerful is the return of Andy. If you're on Twitch, we're going to give you a salute, because just letting you know that we're going to explode the Twitch channel probably later today.
Today, it's happening.
There'll be a new one, but that one's going to die. So,
I would just like to say, dear Twitch, fucking hell.
Yeah, get your shit together, man.
Bloody hell. So the only way for us to resolve our problems with Twitch is to literally destroy our channel and start again. So we're going to be doing that because we love you, Twitch people. But sadly, the Twitch people can't work with the setup that Twitch allow us to have at the moment. God damn it. So yeah we're going to be redoing the whole Twitch thing today.
Yeah, which is that's exactly what we wanted to do when Andy got back. That was peak desire. But anyway, so we'll be getting on that. Anyway, I guess we could go ahead and start getting into Super Chat Jazz.
Cool. Let's get diving in because
we'll off to it. Balva, Andy, welcome back. You were dearly missed. I'm sure I speak for the community at large when I say so. To catch you up, Hawk declared his house a micronation. Ryan took up ventriloquism. Vera want to dance off with the devil. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I believe all those things.
Yeah, the micronation, that ended up being more of an issue than anything, but you know, it has been resolved. Hawkdom is a glorious kingdom. Grim Isaac, welcome back, Andy. Speaking of monsters, Warhammerifying monsters has been very busy in the Discord. From Nagarothi mole men to little gray men to Warforged, we have so many options.
They sound interesting.
Yeah, that was my exact response. Sounds like a lot of reading is what it sounds like. WPK, we missed you, Andy. Welcome back. Yes,
thank you.
WPK, shameless request. Andy, at some point, please check in on the Warhammer forums and the Lorebeards Discord.
So I'm going to ping me there again, just to make sure I don't miss it, because I have fallen behind my pings so much over the last month because I was doing things like watching tea go cold as I sat inside a hospital room. So re-ping me and I'll go find whatever it is that you're looking for.
Zero Daimu, welcome back, Andy. I and everyone else, I'm sure, is overjoyed that you feel you're back in a place where you can spread your passion joy with us once more. Looking forward to the Marathi videos. Yep.
I mean, don't we all?
Yep. So we actually will be resuming on Tuesday for the What If Marathi Found the Magic, which is going to be super fun.
I'm looking forward to that one so much.
We've had a good amount of time to think about it. So, it'll be great. Jonathan, welcome back, Andy. Thank you very much. Direct Pants, hi, Andy and Sotek. It's my birthday today. The perfect way to celebrate together with you. Oh, well, happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dire Pants. Happy birthday to you.
That's what they called him in college. Sean Schultz, and he's back. He is.
He is.
It's on the maiden. Happy birthday, Sotek. Welcome back, Andy. Why aren't there any halfling episodes, not counting interviews? I demand a halfling episode, please.
That's fair, actually. I mean, have we not really done one?
Yeah,
no. I mean, there's not a lot there, but we haven't done one.
Yeah, a dedicated halfling episode would be fun. That actually would be quite fun.
Yeah. That's Intense Ultimatum, because I'm looking back at all the things we've done, and we haven't really discussed them with any real depth. We sort of mention them every once in a while, but not really dived into it.
Yeah. Brock 6000, welcome back, Andy. Thoughts and prayers for you and your family. Lorebeards community is behind you 100%. True.
Thanks, Brock. That's really appreciated.
Zero Daimu, thank you for the 2 months. Andy should join Ross for a History of Games Workshop stream. That would be fun. I would watch that because I have nothing to add to it other than to complain from the sidelines.
But you could really talk up Warhammer World and how much you enjoyed it, though.
No, yeah, it was life-changing.
And did you see that there's going to be an American one?
Yeah, which, honestly might
be better.
Interesting. Yeah, so we'll see. They might try. Who knows? Joe Miller, welcome back, Andy. No one will blame you for needing moments to take them as necessary. Thank you for holding down the fort, Ross, Alexis, and Vera. True.
Thanks, Joe. And for all of those of you out there who are a little concerned, I'm in a bad place. I'll be as blunt and as honest about it as I need be, but I'm in a far better place than I was, and I'm very used to pretending to be happy. So, hey, I'm happy.
That is the most 2026 thing I've heard in my life.
Yeah, quite. Holy crap. Let's not even think about the world, because this stream will never ever reach Kroq-Gar if we do.
Very true. Magnetron, happy birthday, Sotek. Glad you're back, Andy. We all missed you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wozen, the cat ear headphones take off at least 10 years.
I'm only 70.
So glad to see both of you back talking about what you love. Time to double down on the GoFundMe. Yes.
Oh, thanks, Wozen.
Thank you very much. The Senchmeister, how many gores could Kroq-Gar gore when Kroq-Gar gores? Goes gore.
Goes.
Also, welcome back, Andy. Good to see your beard and ears again.
I'm going to say that he could probably gore a lot of gores. Yeah,
I would
gore a lot of gores. But then goring generally suggests that you're doing it with a pair of rather large horns.
He's got some spiky headdress.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, kind of.
He rips them to shreds with the old headdress. So the answer is many.
He does have the big golden nose horn. Looking at his armor.
Yeah, that's going to gore someone. No, I quite like that. I'm with it.
He can pull it off. Brock 6000, happy birthday. Sotek, big ups for holding down the fort and building up Lorebeards what it is today. After watching a monster smash your past stream, we're going to move on from that. And the dancing streams, I was reminded of how great a commentator you are. Be proud, sir. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're not gonna delve into that other thing.
I mean, sorry.
That stream was a terrible idea. It was fun, but it was a stupid idea. WPKM, if Twitch is going to go through its end times, you got to give each Twitch super chatter a send off. Also, why is Kroq-Gar not Kroq-Gar? Okay, there's actually a funny story behind that, which we'll get into with where the character comes from, like what he was in 5th edition, then he leveled up into 6th edition, because you're not. He almost was, to be fair. And no, we're gonna give a lore accurate end times to Twitch, which means we're not gonna resolve any of their storylines, and we're not gonna talk to half of them, and we're just gonna blow them up. We're just gonna hit the button and not worry about it. NC Greenfire, Andy, just wanted to say your nerdy dad vibes are very therapeutic, and your various videos have helped me through some tough times. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, N7 Greenfire. I particularly like the N7 part of your name. That's really nice to hear. I've actually had a surprising number of messages coming through lately that say something similar. And one of them actually made me cry. And I'm just filling up slightly at the thought of it. I'm very emotional just now. Because he sent a lovely message that if I was to paraphrase it and break it down without going into detail, I definitely don't want to read it out, where he said that he was in a very bad place and was considering taking his life, and he found Lawhammer and it changed his life. And he's on the other side, and he's now got a roleplay group, and he's got friends, and he's playing online, and he's in a better place, and he's just found himself a new boyfriend. And I literally cried. In fact, And like, I needed that. Yeah, I need to feel a bit happy because I'm not the happiest man right now. Whew. So yes, thank you so much for saying so. Oh, pardon me if I get a little bit teary.
No pardons required. You have a permanent extension on those. Primogenitor, thank you very much for the membership. We appreciate it. Yeah, and I am being without Andy it's unpleasant when you're used to having Andy. it's like being able to like breathe lovely fresh air, and all of a sudden you move back to the like a horrible cramped city, and you're like, oh no. Oh, this sucks.
Oh, thanks.
It's a deep privilege to have a mentor figure I can rely on as heavily as him.
I'm glad a 120-year-old man can bring so much joy into your life.
It's funny. Every time he talks about the number, it just keeps getting bigger.
And truer.
So we are here for a specific purpose today, and we are technically on a timetable. So we probably should get into it.
All right. Time for an intro. Yeah, this one's not going to be like my normal intros for two reasons. One, Kroq-Gar doesn't have a lot of history in the greater scheme of things. There's not a lot for me to draw on. This isn't one of those characters where there's 2,000 references across 40 books, all of which contradict each other and leave you with the most compelling and ridiculous and contradictory of characters. Instead, we've got ourselves a character who's had a few entries, each of which was arguably just a bit bigger than what came before. However, before I begin, I will say that for me, Kroq-Gar is, as I mentioned earlier, the most 80s of all characters. Why is that? Because for me, Kroq-Gar has always had a name that no one else, bar 2 or 3 other people in the world, refer to him as. And that is Kroq-Gar, the Ever-Living. Now, for those of you out there who know your Thundercats from the 80s, you'll immediately go, what, like Mumra the Ever-Living? WTF? Are you trying to call Kroq-Gar some sort of mummy that goes, Mumra? Yeah, I totally fucking am. And there's a reason for this. I've used Kroq-Gar, and by used, I mean played against Kroq-Gar multiple times in games of Warhammer. And Kroq-Gar, that fucker, on his giant fucking dinosaur, never fucking died. Ever. To the point that the nigh on immortal Kroq-Gar and his giant fucking dinosaur picked up the name in our little gaming group as Kroq-Gar the Ever-Living, a reference to, of course, the Thundercats. But there's another reason he's so freaking 80s, and that's what he rides. Because he rides one hell of a giant dinosaur. But what sort? Much like all good Warhammer characters, he's got a good steed, and of course he should have a big hat if he's a true Warhammer character, but he's a lizardman. Lizardmen don't wear giant hats all that often.
All the Slawn are allowed to wear the big hats.
I mean, quite. The occasional feathered headdress, and then that's about it. So he has got himself a big mount, and that big mount is, for those of you who don't know your lizardmen, basically a Tyrannosaurus Rex from the 80s/90s. And the reason I say that is because we nowadays know that T-Rexes look nothing like Carnosaurs. Carnosaurs look like Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rexes, basically. That's what they look like, with extra spikes because Warhammer. In truth, the terrifying lizard that is the T-Rex didn't look like anything that you see in a Jurassic Park movie, because since that time, scientists have learned more, and they've gained more understanding that there was feathers involved and probably quite a lot more plumage or indeed width to them. Carnosaurs don't look like dinosaurs. They look like what we thought dinosaurs looked like in the 90s. But it's not just he looks like a 90s dinosaur. It's his freaking fucking name. Because me Grimlock like name. He's named Grimlock after the Transformer Grimlock from the 1980s Transformers cartoon. And of course, seen later in other movie versions, TV series, et al. He's named after a freaking dinosaur, T-Rex, transformer. And yeah, sure, they slightly changed a letter or two. He's Grimlock. It's not really Grimlock, honest. No, it's freaking Grimlock. It's one of the most obvious lifts copy-pastes you've ever seen. But the question is, where did this particular 80s name come from? So now we're going to do what I always do, dial back in time. Back in the 5th edition of Warhammer, the Lizardmen were added back into the canon. I.e., the Lizardmen got their first army list for the newer big box set versions of Warhammer. And the Slan of old, which used to be the big Toadmen army, basically the Frogmen of Lustria, and had been in 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition had Slan. Let's be clear, 4th edition mentioned them frequently. The old High Elf army list from 4th edition includes Slan, who were Toad people. Not the big fat toad slan that we know today as the Mage Priest.
That's when they had their great Blood Bowl team.
Yeah. And then 5th edition came along and it said, hey, actually what we have is Lizardmen. And they're led by a Lizardman, an amphibian. Let's not think too much about who leads them, the Slan, because they're not lizards, they're amphibians. They're lizards, okay? The Lizardmen are just basically anything that's green and not human. And it includes all the dinosaurs, the lizard folk, frogs as well, and a whole host of other things that could be that. And the Slan were relegated from being the primary army of Lustria to just being this very rare Slan Mage Priest leadership of the Lizardmen as a whole. And one of the new types of Lizardmen that they added were the Saurus Warriors. Saurus Warriors were the frontline fighters of the Lizardmen. They were bred for war. All the way back before the Cataclysm, when the old ones arrived and they uplifted the Lizardmen, the Saurus were basically the frontline genocide troops who moved across the world, wiping out anything that wasn't a part of the great plan of the old ones. They were warriors through and through. And as is often the case inside the army lists of that era, the special characters at the back basically took one of the troop types and said, this is what the best version looks like. So you would expect a best version of the Saurus. 5th edition didn't really do that. Kroq. Now, I'm going to call this out as a shit name because all of the Lizardman characters in 5th edition have shit names. Kroq, Incy Wincy, Itsy Bitsy, Kroq. They're just all bad names. Itsy Bitsy, bloody hell. He's got an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. Both Itsy Bitsy and teeny weeny were in there. Holy fuck. And Kroq was a big Saurus. There we go. There's not much else worth mentioning about it, except he had a crocodilian face because, hey, Kroq, right? Yeah.
He was basically a Kroq-Gar.
Yeah.
Just to be counted as a Saurus.
Yeah. Except he was a Saurus. So, yeah, just to bring it up. Frickin' tic-tac-toe. Don't even get me started. So with all of that in place, 6th edition was the one that took the previous 4th and 5th, the hero hammer of those box sets, and went, what if we sat back down, re-envisaged everything, and tried to take it with a slightly more serious tone? And Kroq became Kroq-Gar. And holy fuck did he change. He got a glow up, and a big one. Super cool piece of art. And in the army list, we are presented now with the Kroq-Gar that we know and love today. He was not just a lizard man Saurus, he was pretty much the first of the first batch of Lizardman Saurus in the Warhammer world, which means he's pre-Cataclysm because he's Kroq-Gar, the ever-living! He's freaking ancient! Freaking ancient Saurus pops out of his egg spawning pool and is a part of pretty much every war the Lizardmen deal with from that point onwards, from the Cataclysm right through to the end times. And indeed, in the 6th edition, because the 6th edition was coming out during the time of their grand campaigns, it speaks about how he's leading the forces over into Albion. And indeed, has done that already, done the Conquata thing, and headed off back home. And this is where we get our first Grimlock. In fact, his 12th Carnosaur. Grimlock. From the 80s. So they took away one name, Kroq, made it Kroq-Gar, hidden a bit. Then they added freaking Grimlock.
They're like, We can't be shown that we're trying too hard.
Yeah. Holy moly. So this is the character from 6th edition that I squarely hate because he never died. I have never killed him in a game of actual Warhammer with miniatures. I've done it online, and that's just not the same. Did it in Total War multiple times. But as we all know, in Total War, they just get back up again. But I hated him so much. This stupid character, fucking grim, fucking monster, fucking Kroq-Gar the ever-living. When we move through to 8th edition, it basically is almost a copy-paste of what came before, and as often is the case with 8th edition, they trim it all down as they then add some other bits later. So the 6th edition write-up is the big write-up that we get. The 8th edition one is somewhat trimmed down. He pops over into Total War. He's around. Ultimately, all you really need to know for the intro before we dive into his artifacts, dive into the various stories, dive into the story of pretty much where he made his name during the Cataclysm. All you need to know is he's a really big, really old, really hard Saurus warrior who has been going for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. And he rides a Transformer.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to whoever wrote the 7th edition Lizardman book as well and decided to triple down on the Transformers and went, oh, you know what? I shit you not, every named Lizardman mount is a different Transformer. We've got Zlak, Zwuck, and Grimlock.
I freaking hate it. But many people loved it, but that's not me. I was trying to avoid that. Thanks for bringing up. It's your birthday, though, so you get to. So there we go. There is my intro to Kroq-Gar, the ever-freaking-living, the immortal Saurus. And I say he's immortal because effectively he is. He's never died in canon. He's still going. Kinda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, from there... okay, we're gonna get a couple of super chats that came in during the intro, and then I'm gonna hop into it because there's a good amount to discuss. Kroq-Gar, kind of like Andy said, there's not necessarily a lot to his initial story, but there's a lot of crumbs that sort of get scattered around, and the more you start to look at the crumbs, you go, oh, that's interesting, and it leads you into some kind of interesting places. So let's see. Nope. We were here. Primogender asked for his member question. How strong are Shukigans physically? So
that's a little bit like saying how strong are... No, even that's not a good analogy. Shukigans do not just describe the first generation. The best way of imagining this is Vampire the Masquerade. If you've ever played that game, it'll make a lot of sense. If you haven't, I'll give a very brief description. In that, you've got effectively all vampires coming from mythical Cain, and each generation that comes afterwards is less powerful than the generation before. And in some regards, that's what the Shukigan are like. The ones that are really close to the dragons are pretty freaking powerful, and the blood thins down with each successive generation, and potentially could be revivified by another dragon popping in and mating with one of the Shukigan. The answer here is, how strong are they physically? Well, it depends on the Shukigan.
Yeah, it would depend on how strong their dragon blood is.
Yeah, and also whether they bothered focusing on their strength. Because arguably a first-generation Shukigan could just not bother at all and would be almost human, because sometimes the human part will be stronger than the blood dragon part within them. But they might be magically extraordinary. The Shukigan are not, at least as they currently stand, consistent.
Yeah, literally the only thing we have for them from like a tabletop perspective has them, I think, at strength 4, toughness 5, which is not bad.
Again, that's a warrior game, and that's the warriors that are on the front line. There's very likely ones who are administrators, ones who are ministers that sit behind the scenes. And we know that they exist, and many of those are described in the few places that we have them as being of different capabilities. So the answer to this one is, it depends on the Shukigan.
Yeah, I mean, hell, if you look at the short story we got from Creative Assembly about, like, there's a very young one who can still pudge clean through people's bodies.
Freaking awesome.
Which is like, oh my God. So, Lemon Man. Hi, Lorebeards. I love the series and happy and Andy is back. I don't have anything to say that hasn't been said by others over the situation. Fair.
Thank you, Lemon. Thank you, Lemon Man. You rock.
Joe Miller, if he keeps going up in age, he's going to end up Andy Lichhammer. Alano Lex, Kroq-Gar is proof that everything you thought was cool at the age of 8 is actually cool.
I mean, if he just didn't have the name Grimlock, I think he would have been the coolest thing ever. But it's one of those ones that if they ever do a movie, they'll have to rename him.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, if he ever showed up in a series,
he breaks IP. So he takes from someone else's IP, and they'll probably almost certainly do so. In the same way that, say, for example, Malekith was renamed to Malarian, because they kind of had to. They're going to get stung for copyright theft at some point.
Lemon Man, this series helped me through my concussion recovery. Oh goodness, hope you're feeling better, my dude. Wishing Andy and his family the best.
Thank you, Lemon Man. Doing well with that, because concussion can be rough.
Yeah, those can suck. Please get some good rest. Biofoot, Andy, Warhammer already has frogmen. Bretonia.
I'm saying nothing.
People get so people just love dunking on the French. Mediator meditating. How does Kroq-Gar's deep affiliation with Tehinuin affect his personal psychology? How does that change his perception of his enemies, his purpose? So I will save this for a little later in the stream because it does tie into our Tehinuin stream from like a year and a half ago.
That was
which was a fantastic one, a really good one. We will be calling back to that because Kroq-Gar does have an interweaving storyline with Tehinuin, but we'll circle back around to it. But don't worry, it's on my map of where we're going to end up going.
Yeah, I'll just have a very loose. Kroq-Gar is described as being exceedingly aggressive right at the very beginning of his descriptions. Every time he's one of the most aggressive, one of the most arguably angry of lizardmen. But as we know, the lizardmen are cold-blooded and cool, and they don't really express extremes of emotion in the same way that other species do until Tehinuin comes along. So, yeah, I think there's definitely something to discuss there.
Yep. Sean Schultz, what additions spawned Kremlo? What lizardman name does Andy dislike the most, and why?
Okay, so Kremlo is second, as I recall, originally. Although I need to check that one up. Yeah. On the other side, though, which one do I dislike most? That's a toughie. Maybe Incy Wincy. Itsy Bits. Maybe. I mean, I hated Kroq the first time I heard it.
Kroq, I feel like, is the most offensive for how important he is.
Yeah, that's why I hated it. But in my own games, we got around that because we all referred to him as Kroq, and it sort of broke it up. But it's not, it's Kroq as much. And he's dead, so he's Kroqed. It's the most ridiculous name ever. And I hated it with such a passion, but I've grown so used to it now, I kind of don't hear it. But Itsy Bitsy, I always found a bit it's just offensive almost.
Yeah, it's true. Though I do like that
Grimlock. No, it's Grimlock.
It's just a full-on transformer.
Fucking Grimlock. Me, Grimlock, do not like this. Me, Grimlock, say no.
Darius, Sotek talking about Kroq-Gar. I think he's cute. He's so scaly. The hand of the gods drives the skinks wild. He's got the moves that slaughter entire armies. He sends chills down. This has to be a song. He sends chills down everyone's spine. He's my scaly boy. He is my scaly boy. I love Kroq-Gar. Though I will say, his old metal model, fuck that thing. Hated putting that shit together. And it was so front loaded that you always set him on the table and he just goes
crunch.
Every time. Because his tail was so tiny.
Kroq-Gar, the ever living.
Definitely much preferred his plastic sculpt from 8th edition. Necro Player, I will say, as dumb and bad as the lizardman naming is, I kind of love it. It reminds me of how much of a garage game Warhammer was and kind of still is.
Yeah, I also, and this is going to contradict what I've just whinged about, kind of love it. But in its right place, inside the core Warhammer setting, it doesn't fit for multiple reasons, as in, it breaks other people's IP, or it takes away from almost the majesty of everything that Warhammer now presents. But it wasn't that originally. Originally, it was just this fun satirical piece where everyone got to just grab whatever miniatures they had from whatever game there was and slap them on the table and have some fun. That's cool. However, when it became something more, a lot of those old names sort of hung about. A lot of them didn't. And the ones that remained kind of get ditched at some point, particularly something like Grimlock. It's going to go, I reckon.
Yeah, it's so wild to be that Lord Kroq is still like a fundamentally important character to the modern AOS setting with like a gorgeous, insanely expensive model, but he's still Kroq.
Yep.
Still got the same goofy ass name.
Yep, that one's gonna stick.
Zero Daimu, did Kroq-Gar make it to AOS? I've seen mixed info. So the technical answer is no.
No.
He has not appeared. Now he didn't die during the end times, as far as we know. Like we'll get into it, but we literally leave with him escaping the planet. So I don't know where he is, but he might show up at some point. He might never show up. AOS kind of always has those like extra cards, because who does and doesn't show up from fantasy is a complete toss-up. It's genuinely a complete toss-up. Like we left off Festus the Leech Lord failing his ascension to demonhood and being killed by Vlad von Karstein. And in AOS, as of like a month ago, he's back and he has successfully ascended to demonhood. Great. Sure. But like, sure, whatever. So it's, it's a toss-up. But he has not yet appeared.
If you're looking for some evidence, if he pops up in the old world, the answer is probably no.
Yeah, that would be the most reasonable thing to expect.
Yeah. There still seems to be a relatively strong separation of the IPs going on. Whether that is maintained, we can see, because there's some characters which are already in Age of Sigmar, which are intrinsically linked to the setting of the old world, and it'll be difficult not to include them. But broadly speaking, there seems to be a separation. And if they bring Kroq-Gar into the old world, I think it's pretty unlikely he'll let Age of Sigmar, unless somebody just decides to do the opposite, because who knows?
Yeah, they very well might. Who could say? Yeah. Darius Rose, Sotek about Kroq-Gar continued. He makes me hot. He makes chaos shiver. The Skaven knees get weak when he comes around. Grimlock, that's how you spell it. Stomps and he talks. He makes...
It's really probably how you should spell it, though, because we all know.
Not Lizardman. We use Q's, not C's.
We all know.
It makes me feel like I'm on cloud 9. Man, I wish I was more caught up with song references.
He's Shawn Michaeling his way through this, I believe.
Of course he is. Yeah, I should have known that. Darius Rose, hope you're doing okay, Andy.
Yeah, I'm much worse than I appear.
That's fair. Jack Flanagan, guess who's back again? Andy's back. Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Welcome back, Andy. I'm so glad to see you in Sotek, especially because Kroq-Gar is my favorite character in Warhammer. Laser arm.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. That's deeply appreciated.
Singemeister, the design iteration on Carnosaurs is interesting. Yeah, it's funny. If you go back to like 5th edition, especially, they were literally just a T-Rex. Like they had the tiny little arms. They were basic T-Rex. And then in 6th edition, they were like, oh, well, let's make them a bit spikier, but they still have the tiny T-Rex arms. And then 8th edition, they just went a completely different direction with it. And they made them much scarier looking, but they have a much smaller heads than their older iterations. So like the older Carnosaurs had really big T-Rex heads, but the 8th edition one had had smaller, more like, it's less of like, oh, I'm going to like bite into a big, like the Dread Saurian became more of what the Carnosaur used to be. And the actual Carnosaur kind of evolved into a bit of a unique, but like it's T-Rex inspired, but it's not really like a T-Rex at all.
Yeah, it's got big, massive, huge hands now.
Yeah. Tablam! Weekday stream idea. Warhammer FI IRL locations of note. Taken from Dynaman. Real world places that should have been in the Warhammer post in the Lawhammer Discord. Also, Sotek Bretonnia does have frogmen who are not the Bretonnia. Yeah, I know. No, they're lakemen, not frogmen. Okay, don't waggle your technicalities at me. I will waggle them right back.
Thanks for that, David Chart. Oh man,
Yeah, that could be fun because there are some places that are deeply inspiring. We've talked a lot about how Middenheim is basically just Edinburgh, so yeah, that could be something that's quite fun to do. Petrus, hi Petrus, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joe Miller, are skink oracles full-on casters like skink priests, or are they just extensions of the Slans network? So this would depend on which interpretation you're looking at. When they were released in 8th edition, they could not cast spells, but they could take a channeling staff, or the little stick that they have is a channeling staff, and what they were able to do is that Slan could cast magic through them. Just like they could as King Priest. And that was it. That was they were oracles, but they were not wizards, which are technically different things in most situations. Then in Age of Sigmar, they went, you know what? We're going to let them cast magic. And when Total War Warhammer, which takes place in Warhammer Fantasy, got around to the Skink Oracle, they looked at the AOS version and the fantasy version. They went to GW and went, hey, can we make them wizards? And they were like, yeah, go for it. So they made them into wizards, but they cannot cast... They can only cast signature spells. So they can only cast like the most basic spell of each of the 8 battle lores. They couldn't cast any more elaborate spells than that. So they kind of went with like a bit of a middle ground of like, they can technically cast magic, but they can only cast very weak magic. Weak. But they also ride on a big acid spitting mean ass dinosaur. So, what are you going to do? Stephen Lucas. Kroq gets away by being the first. No, not other Slan. I don't know what we mean by get away here.
I mean, he gets away with the name, perhaps.
I mean, I feel like that makes it worse, not better. But though I do
when you look at the name of all the other Slan and what sort of names they have.
Yeah, though it would. Yeah, I know they all have. Most of them actually have quite decent names. Not all. There is like Lord Chili Pepper out there in the world.
Lord Chili Pepper,
who is another first generation Slan.
Yeah, he is.
Great renown. Elemental exposure. So glad Andy's back. Thank you. Jonathan King. Question about Saurus Warriors. Do they get named when they first emerge, or not till they do something of note? So that is a fantastic question that we have no fucking idea.
Who knows? See, I love that. That's one of those things I would love to have seen answered inside, say, for example, about a 15 to 20 page treatment of Lisbon society in a roleplay book. It feels like it should have been in the Lustria book. The breakdown of the different types of Lizardmen, and also because you're going to have to play them, how to play them, what happens with them. When do they get named? When do things happen? And normally this is the first thing that's covered whenever you do character generation for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. They generally cover things like heights, weights, colors, and ultimately names and how they're generated. If you go look at, say, for example, the core book of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, it's got a breakdown for how to name a halfling, how to name a human, how to name an elf, how to name a dwarf, and the basic components of each part of the name and how to build it. Do we have that for this? No. And it probably should have been covered by now.
Yeah, it's like, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure they actually didn't address this in the book, which was a huge bummer.
I'm pretty sure they didn't. In that, I don't remember it from reading it, and I did read through it. Hey, I'm 80, so maybe my memory's slipped here. But this is something that very much should be covered inside the roleplay book, because in roleplay books, you need to play these characters, which means you need to understand it.
They skipped the naming part, which is weird. They don't explain anything about names at all.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It's an omission. And I was pretty disappointed with that. It was part of the planned... Well, we weren't going to make a Lustria book in the same way that they did it, but back when I was running things, it was part of the book, and we had already the whole plan for how to do it, and how to build different Lizardman name parts, and how the different species, I suppose, of Lizardmen each use different naming structures. But sadly, we don't know the answer to this because it's never come out in print.
Yeah, well, that always makes me sad.
Me too.
Stephen Lucas, talking about garage games, call out Turnip 28. Why the Inquisition quarantined the trough to Verdant? What? Stephen Lucas, what are you talking about? for violent irrationalness with worse manners. What?
I am 100% out of the loop.
Yeah, I feel like someone just yelled across the room using a super chat, and I have no idea what this
Even
means.
Lucas, if you could explain that a little bit better, I attempt to answer it.
Darius Rose. So they just make them mega raptorans, large theropods, completely the opposite to a T-Rex, big arms, somewhat small head. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
I do recall. I remember there was a fellow I was chatting with who was giving an angry discussion about how he hated the Carnosaur designs in 8th edition because he hated their teeth, because he's like, their teeth are based off cat teeth, not dinosaur teeth. And I was like, I don't care. It's a fantasy monster. I don't care.
I'm in broadly the same place. I mean, fantasy draws upon all the cool. It doesn't necessarily have any grounding in reality.
Serpanza, does your own AOS Kroq-Gar mount need a name? Might I suggest Optimus Prime? Seraphon,
original.
Roll out.
It's original. I like it. Definitely not a reference to the Transformers.
Yeah, you actually tried harder than Grimlock because they just did it 1-for-1. You at least added some other letters.
Then it spelled Optimus with a Y. And Prime with a Y as well. And God, there we go. Optimus Prime. Perfect.
That's exactly what they would have done.
Oh, man.
They replace C's and K's with Q's and replace I's with Y's, and you've done it. That's the strategy. A name suggestion for Grimlock: Sotek, named after Sue, one of the largest, most extensive, and best preserved Tyrannosaurus Rex fossils. That would have been great. That would make sense and be cool, and still sounds appropriate.
And arguably, it could also be Suresh.
Yeah, Suresh.
And good old and Lizardman language. So you get a nice little bridge there. That could have been quite fun.
Okay, we got 2 more of these, and then we gotta get going.
We do.
Petrus, well, welcome. Off topic, orcs are different than orcs because an old one had a side project, early iteration, took them on board. Also, Gur interaction on top. If that's how you want to play that, you absolutely can. That there was, that you had old ones making all their own versions, which very well could be the case.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's as good a reason as any.
Joe Miller, perhaps a stream on how you guys would implement that for Wolfrup, how a source gets named, how big they are, what daily life might be like, etc. That could be a fun stream at some point. I do think so.
Yeah, there's a lot potentially in that. It's very Warhammer Fantasy roleplay facing, but at the same point, we are detailing Warhammer lore in it. So yeah, there's arguably something.
Oh, okay. In the Abhuman stream from yesterday, Turnip 28 was, I guess, part of something they came up with for that. I didn't watch the stream. I don't know. I was celebrating birthday stuff.
The only thing I caught from the I'm Human stream, because I dropped in just to quickly say hello to Rusty and Ross, was that the Ogrins were big and stupid, which I already knew, and that was yet again another use of the trope where anything that's big must immediately be dumb, pulling upon a very tired, very old, and also kind of offensive trope where anyone who's big and tall is seen as stupid. And that's pretty much what Games Workshop have run on for anything big and tall for some time. If it's big, they make it stupid. It's a giant, it's stupid. It's an ogre, it's stupid. So that's the only thing I picked out of that one. And it's fair to say, Grimlock, it's another fine example of big equals stupid that is very prevalent across our media.
Yep. That's true. Miss my Kroq-Gars with that though. Kroq-Gars aren't dumb. They just have a simplified language.
They're stupid.
Most people would describe them as stupid. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Walking Tree, what's your opinion on Star Series Ruin? Still haven't read it yet. I really need to get around to it. Well, my physical copy never arrived. Whoever got my money on that stole it and ran. Which I really should look that up and do a chargeback on my card, but it's probably too late. So they probably won't do a chargeback. But I never got it. So yeah, I need to somehow get my hands on it. But in any event,
where are you going to begin?
Kroq-Gar. So Kroq-Gar,
Kroq-Gar, the ever living.
I'm not going to do that. He wasn't. I wish he had been ever living on my tables. But whenever I played with him, he was perfectly capable of dying.
Unkillable bastard.
Yeah, though he was the most reliable Carnosaur you could have on the table. That 5 board save. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. But Kroq-Gar, when we're looking at him from like a traditional Warhammer Fantasy lens, he, like Andy kind of said earlier, he's a character that remains surprisingly consistent throughout 3 entire editions, which is a fairly long time for
not
a character.
so much on 5th though.
Yeah, well, so 6, 7, 8. So so he got little additional notes every edition. 7th edition had like the longest amount of stuff about him. Then 8th kind of compressed it a little bit, but kept all the core bits. Though they added a couple of fun little timeline things. But our story with Kroq-Gar begins, like Andy said, before the Cataclysm. Now, one of the things they would add that's a bit interesting that I actually enjoy is that Kroq-Gar, by human standards, is very old when the Cataclysm kicks off. But by like elf lizardmen standards, he's actually not super crazy old. And that it says that he spawned a few mere centuries before the Cataclysm kicks off. So he is spawned in a not nearly as large. So it's one of the more minor satellite cities of the Lustrian Empire, known as Shodel, which the city of Shodel is dedicated to the Old One, Shodel, who is the Old One that is responsible. He is the Old One of Destiny. And great warriors. If you are marked by Shodel as the Old One that is behind your spawning, it means that you are quite literally marked for greatness. You are marked to accomplish some sort of great destined fate throughout your life. Usually when you would have someone that was spawned under Shodel's sign, it would be an individual or at most like a couple. But within the city of Shodel itself, the city of fate or the city of destiny, there was, once again, a few hundred years. So we're talking 200-300 years before the Cataclysm kicks off. So by this point, you already have all 5 generations of Slann are about. Elves have been around for a long time at this point. So Kroq-Gar is not like older than a lot of species. There are dwarves, elves, and likely men, ogres, and all those already are about and doing well. But Kroq-Gar shows up with just a handful of other swords. So instead of entire regiment coming out of the spawning pools, which would normally be the case, is that when you have a spawning of swords, they come out as an entire unit. In this instance, only a small group of them came out. So somewhere between like 3 to 5. And each of them bore Shodel's marking, which is not ever super detailed, but is implied to have something to do with their crest and the way it's shaped. And the lizardmen saw these 5 and went, oh shit, like these guys are, we don't know what their destiny is, but it's very, very important, which in and of itself is kind of interesting because this is the time of the Old Ones. So this is a time where the Old Ones were around and would have been able, if they had been so inclined, to communicate with the Slann. But we know that the lizardmen don't have much recollection of them. We've talked about that a good bit if you go watch our Old One stream. About that the Old Ones did not communicate very often, even at the best of times. And this is when the polar gates are already starting to get, if you go by the older lore, which the newer lore suggests, of course, was the plan, but they're starting to get a little finicky.
Wobbly.
And Kroq-Gar's spawning, because it was destined to be, also just happened to coincide with the rearing of a new breed of Carnosaurs. Really big, nasty ones. And the raising of Carnosaurs is actually kind of a fun little tidbit of lizardmen lore, in that most of the dinosaurs that the lizardmen train are the general gist is that they like the skinks will go in, try and steal eggs from nests, which usually can get quite a few of them killed. But they will bring them back, and then when they hatch, the lizardmen try and get them to imprint on a certain lizardman and then raise them up. Carnosaurs are a bit of a trickier situation because they are bloodthirsty little bastards. And
bloodthirsty big bastards.
Yeah, and so even when they are like freshly hatched, they are more than capable of killing skinks, which makes raising them to be notably difficult because the skinks will do a lot of their initial training while trying not to get ripped in half or get their heads bit off. But typically what will happen is that a Saurus that is marked in some way by Itzel, the tri-horned beast, the Lord of Beasts will approach them and they'll form some kind of bond. Now, when Kroq-Gar and his little squad, his spawn brothers, approached these Carnosaurs, there was just so happened, via destiny, exactly the right amount of Carnosaurs for these guys to each pick about. And Kroq-Gar chose the biggest, baddest one to be his, the most aggressive, largest, nastiest one. Now, fun fact is that this is Grimlock, which you may go, hold up, didn't Andy say earlier that Grimlock was the 12th Carnosaur? And yes, in 6th edition and 7th edition, Grimlock was the 12th of his lineage. Not necessarily breeding wise, but he was the 12th Carnosaur that Kroq-Gar had ridden into battle. But then 8th edition shows up with a steel baseball bat and beats that to death and says, nope, it's always been Grimlock. Which means that Grimlock is like
just as old.
As old as Kroq-Gar.
Or reincarnated if you combine. Because that's something that happens with the spawning pools more than once.
Yeah, so depending on your interpretation of it, I will say that it is a bit ridiculous, in my opinion, to suggest that he's been riding the same Carnosaur, because Carnosaurs are like actual normal creatures that their parents breed and have an egg, and then the egg hatches, and Carnosaur baby. They're not bio-programmed by the spawning pools or anything like that. Until they are, but that's later in AOS. Don't worry about that. I will say that it makes a lot more sense for Grimlock to simply be the 12th mount that he is running to battle and the one that he's running in the modern age, because it gives a little bit. I preferred that version of the story because it gives much more of a tale of like, how did the other 11 die? What was Kroq-Gar's connections to them and all this other stuff. But however you like to go with it, either it is the same Carnosaur that he's been riding for nearly 10,000 years, or it is one of a group of 12, which still makes them live for a pretty considerable amount of time. Only 12 in about 8,000. Would it be 8 or... It's either 8 or 9,000 years. Is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Although, if we go with 8, it's just one ageless one. But I do think I agree that the idea that it's not the 12th, or indeed the 12th appearance of the same one, because we know that the Lizardmen screw about with these things. We had a discussion about this with the Tenuan stream as well, where we discussed whether Tenuan was just one Tenuan or whether it was multiple Tenuans that have come back in one fashion or another. And there's no reason why this couldn't be the case with a Carnosaur. We know that originally Grimlock was reared, but maybe from the age of the old ones, that an ageless one or an undying one or one that somehow reincarnates was the case. There's a story here, as I am wont to say, that has yet to be told to explain it all. Because Carnosaurs aren't all that. They're horrendous. But the chance of one living all of that time and not dying in war because he is a frontline soldier fighting again and again it's almost ridiculous. It's Warhammer. Ridiculous things happen 9 times out of 10. But sometimes it makes more sense to go with the tale that makes most sense. And in this case, I think a combining of the different editions makes the best outcome. In the same fashion that if we go with the initial descriptions of Kroq-Gar, his entire spawning are said to be exceedingly dominant. All beasts kneel to them. All of them. And that's one of the reasons why this enormous Carnosaur could be taken by Kroq-Gar, because the innate presence of Kroq-Gar was that when he went up to the Carnosaurs, they all bowed to him. This is something that I think very much speaks to who Kroq-Gar is. And if you want to go with the ageless version, I'd suggest that's almost a legend rather than necessarily the simple truth.
Yeah. There's a interesting aspect that Kroq-Gar, although his spawning of Shodel is called out because it has a special rule. By definition, he is also a sacred spawning of Itzel, being that he is able to command and tame beasts just by looking at them. And Kroq-Gar is so much scarier than most, because most of the time you need the sacred spawning of Itzel, especially back in 6th edition. You just had to have it if you wanted to mount. So, like, if you wanted to put a Saurus Old Blood on a cold one or on a Carnosaur, they had to have the sacred spawning of Itzel. And they can have up to 3 spawnings, but if you're dealing with a triple spawning, you're dealing with like a big dick character. And Kroq-Gar, the end times actually gets Kroq-Gar very, very right. He is one of the best storylines in the end times for like how characters were treated, which we'll get into more at the end. But one of the things they hold consistent is that there is a part of the end times where the current Grimlock is killed. And when the current Grimlock dies, Kroq-Gar continues to fight. And he wins that fight, and then when he gets new orders that he needs to be somewhere else, he simply stands and looks at the battlefield, and a Carnosaur whose rider was killed during the fighting simply runs over, acknowledges him as his new master, and he pulls himself up on its saddle, and he's immediately back to the fight.
Me, Grimlock, has come back!
Yeah, so it's like, so that is the 13th Grimlock in that case, or maybe they all have different names, but it would make sense that maybe that's just the term Kroq-Gar uses for his mount, and it's less of a name and more of a title.
But to be as clear as we can be, in 8th edition, it very much goes with the ageless Grimlock that survives that great war during the Cataclysm, comes out with him, and is with him for perpetuity. So that is the official stance. Our reading of it is that if we take all the editions together, you probably have a better and arguably more realistic, as much as that matters for Warhammer, tale. Yeah,
but in any event, Kroq-Gar does not have a ton of time to get acclimated to the world as it is. As like we said, 2 to 3 centuries is not a lot of time in Lizardman world. That is an eye blink to many of them. For skinks, it's a long time, but for Saurus, Kroq-Gars, and Slann, it's not. And Kroq-Gar is almost immediately, he has basically just enough time to become functionally an old blood, fighting against greenskins, and he would have participated in wars of extermination, going out and fighting against like the endless tides of greenskins, pushing back the Famir, the Dragon Ogres, all of these other undesirables. But eventually,
genocide.
Yeah, genocide. He gets his licks in, and then the Cataclysm goes off, and in 5600 BSBE, however you want to look at it, but before the formation of the Empire, the gates implode. And with the implosion of the gates, chaos comes screaming into existence, and basically the entire world is under attack at once. Now, for the first, something that often we've talked about here on Lorebeards, but is always worth reiterating because the lore doesn't do a good job of exploring this. There is a 600-year period between the polar gates imploding and the lizardmen being pushed back to Lustria, when shit really starts to hit the fan everywhere. Where for a while, the lizardmen actually do a decent job of holding back chaos. Because like 400 years or 600 years is not nothing. Like that's a pretty damn good amount of time to be facing endless legions of demons that just constantly respawn and cannot be permanently put down by any reliable means, and you're holding them off. Now, Kroq-Gar, for his part, we do get little tidbits about this part of his life. It's very minor, but quite literally all that said is that Kroq-Gar leads an army, and his little cohort of Spawn brothers. So it's like him and his squad of bros and a very fast-paced moving army, mostly made up of Cold One riders, following in his trail, and he's just running around the world fighting constantly. Just always fighting. And for 600 years, Kroq-Gar does a pretty good job of beating the crap out of demons, defeating them, leading well to victory, and him and his Spawn brothers survive this era of the war, despite the fact that it's bloody, it's awful. There are demons appearing the likes of which the world has never seen again. up until the end times, because magic is completely unfettered and demons are manifesting far more numerous and far larger than you will see in the ages to come afterwards.
Yeah, I think I want to reinforce something that Ryan was saying there as well. And that's that there is a large period of time here that most of the stories almost suggest passing a blink. In that, most of them will say something like this. And then chaos came, the gates exploded, and there was a big fight, and the cataclysm ended. And that's a really short version of what actually happens. By the time the cataclysm comes to an end, he's been kicking around for pretty much a millennia, 1,000 years, of which almost all of that has been permanent warfare. If you want to have a single time an imagining of Warhammer, when it's pure war, it's the Cataclysm. And he has 1,000 years worth of veteran warfare underneath his belt when the last battles that he's involved with at the end of the Cataclysm take place. It's not he was there for a couple of centuries, the Cataclysm comes, he has a big fight, and the Cataclysm is over, which is what the stories sort of suggest, because the Cataclysm's a big, big event.
Yeah, and it's at some point during these 600 years that Kroq-Gar picks up his first kind of iconic piece of weaponry, which is that somewhere, somehow, he picks up and is gifted the revered Spear of Talangsha, which is very bluntly stated in Godspeak for in the army books to be the literal weapon of one of the old ones. The old one, Talangsha, who, if you go watch our old one stream if you want more details about him, that rode about the skies on his sky chariot of doom, slaughtering something in the primordial times. And Kroq-Gar is either given this weapon, or possibly more likely, if you believe that the old ones were killed in battle or were just suddenly annihilated when chaos came into the world, he just found it somewhere. Perhaps he was guided to it by destiny.
Yeah, it's a fun one, this one, because this single artifact was a point of some contention behind the scenes when I was doing a piece of writing for the Tome of Salvation, where I made the Sword of Judgment a literal weapon of the old ones, the sword of one of the old ones directly. And I got a quick note back saying, you can't do that. To which I replied, yeah, I can. And this is why. Because this weapon is very clearly stated, again in the old God voice, to be a weapon of the old ones, which tells a true story. Either it's a lie, and what is being used as a weapon wasn't a weapon of the old ones. It's just a piece of old one technology that they think is a weapon of the old ones, or we take it at face value. And this means that the old ones fought, did stuff, were seen, were doing shit. When the old ones disappeared, and I'm going to use disappeared rather than killed because that's how it's most commonly depicted in the various sources, the old ones just winked out of existence doing whatever the fuck they did. When the demons arrived and the Slan go, and go mad as they attempt to hold off the horrors that the old ones have left them with, the weapon gets dropped and very possibly is picked up immediately by him, or at some point over the course of the next so many centuries is picked up by him. But it's a weapon if we go by the descriptions they use. And it does really tell a story, because it suggests that back in the pre-cataclysmic times, the old ones were physically taking part in the wars that we're told that the Saurus themselves were sweeping across the world with. He was up there in his sky chariot, and sometimes he was facing off against, I don't know, dragons, giant fucking dragon ogres. These old ones were far more corporeal, manifested physically than they're often described in other places, assuming that this weapon is accurate. And I think that the answer here is, it is accurate. The old ones are much less and also much more mysterious than many project them as. And in some respects, having these little details, these fingerprints of the previous gods, makes them feel far more part of the setting than just this mysterious nothing. They are something that used real tech. We know they arrived in silver ships. We know they had great warp gates that they constructed over the poles, and also a whole system of warp gates that they had all over the planet, connected to other places too, and possibly other planets. They were physical corporeal beings. And we also, because of this, get an idea of their size. They're about human-sized. We know this. So we've got a clear description of the old ones because of this, which is super cool. And he carries a literal god weapon. But hey!
Yeah, so three things about this weapon that I find very funny is that, one, Tlongshla was kind of fucked up because this weapon is basically, what if I could have a rusty nail that instead of giving you tetanus, gave you PTSD? Because the way this weapon is quite literally described is that anyone that suffers a wound from it or a scratch from its blade is overwhelmed by doom-laden visions that cause them to basically just give up and slump to the ground. Like it's a terrifying weapon. Like and it actually synergizes well with some other old one tech we see wielded by the lizardmen, some other like totems and great standards, where a lot of the lizardmen, the old ones' weaponry, or at least the way the lizardmen use them as weapons, are designed to quite literally overwhelm and kind of obliterate the minds of their enemies.
Emotional damage. It's pretty freaking cool because it's an example of how most of the weapons in Warhammer tend to be, and you take extra wounds, you blow up, you phase out of reality. Here, you mentally break down.
Yeah, which one of the unique things about it is that the weapon, Kroq-Gar's spear actually flip-flopped for a time against that. In its original iteration, if you were immune to psychology, it didn't work. Like it was magical, so it could still harm you. But if you were immune to psychology, you didn't give a shit about doom-laden visions, so it didn't do anything to you. And then 8th edition rolled around, as 8th edition likes to do, and 8th edition was like, well, that's kind of silly. That's kind of dumb for a god weapon. So it said, nah, fuck you. Even if you're immune to psychology, even if you're a demon or undead, nope, it still does its effect. In that it still causes you to people that are wounded by it or near people that are being killed by it still get overwhelmed by doom-laden visions, and actually made it really good against demons and undead because it doubles all the damage he does for combat res, which against those factions means they're just dying in droves.
And again, if you're playing against something like, say, Slayers who don't break, not an issue.
Yeah, against players, it's
really interesting to see how it interacts because they removed a rule, as in there are certain people who are immune to it. Because of that removal, it meant that it worked very differently in the game. It was good.
But one of the other things that's very funny about Kroq-Gar's spear for me personally is that you can tell that when Kroq-Gar's miniature was originally designed, they had not decided to make the spear a big deal. Because if you look at his original 6th edition metal mini, he's got the revered spear of Tlongshla on one hand, and then he's got a rack of bonus spears behind him. So he has so he's got like 3 or 4 revered spears of Tlongshla, which is very funny.
As you go with his 3 or 4 Grimlocks.
Yeah. You never know when your god weapon's gonna snap off in some greater demon. You got to pick up the next one. Like it's like when the mini was designed, it seemed like it was a much more practical, like, oh, I lance someone on the charge, the spear breaks off inside them, and then I pull out the next spear. But then when the 8th edition mini got released, which was the updated mini, they very clearly redesigned it. So it's like, oh no, this is a crazy looking god spear where it's got like a weird floating orb in the middle of it, and it's all spooky looking. Which I've always found very funny.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, but in any event, so for these 600 years, things are going okay-ish. The lizardmen start off at a fairly strong point of the war, but as time goes on, they start losing more and more and more and more ground and the lizardmen, which were a global force, end up after 600 years retreating to Lustria. And this is where shit starts getting really, really bad for everybody, because now the demons are able to just cut loose and attack everybody all at the same time. And at this point, Kroq-Gar's role changes, where he returns to nearby the city of Shodal, and he basically is used as a sortie. So he constantly smashes his way out of the city, which is being protected by a magical dome. This is when the Slann implement a new strategy. So they create these great crackling domes of energy protecting all of the temple cities. And Kroq-Gar runs around basically going out of the city, killing a bunch of demons, coming back. Going out of the city, killing a bunch of demons, coming back. Just over and over and over again. But it doesn't last for very long. One of the details that 7th edition added that was actually very, very cool that we didn't have in the original version of his story was that, so for most of the temple cities, they lasted a good while once they really got to the dome stage. But we know that the very first, if you go thanks to like some of the Lizardman stories as well as the stories from the Demons book, that Kairos Fate Weaver basically shows up and manages to crack the city of Echoes, which I'm somehow struggling to remember the name of all of a sudden.
I wish you hadn't said that, because I was just about to say it.
Yeah.
It's where I made. I was writing about it just like a month ago.
City.
I say that it's 3 months ago. Time has just gone weird. Sotek, that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Sotek falls. And when it falls, one of the things that happens almost immediately is that it sends the demons are able to replicate this process of attacking, which Kairos's gimmick was that he would basically open a portal, like a little, just a tiny little portal next to the Slann inside the cities, and flesh hounds would spill out of it, just enough of them that they could blitz the Slann and kill them before the Lizardmen could enact any defense. The Lizardmen figured this out after like a couple of cities had fallen, but one of the earliest cities to fall is Shodal. Shodal is in like the initial wave of cities that gets brought down. And Shodal falls to a similar strategy, but in some ways more tragic, which is that Zahatek, I think Tlunxla, and Hwaddle are all taken out by Kairos's bullshit, like, I'm going to open a portal and let some demons out. But those 3 cities falling sends a magical shockwave along the geomantic web. And when it hits Shodal, tragedy happens, because one of the Slann, functionally, he miscasts. He loses control of the magic he's channeling, and he is torn apart from the inside, like his body bursts as demons rip out of his body and immediately attack the other Slann around him. And the Kroq-Gar is out fighting outside of the city, past its outskirts, and him and his little squad turn around and they see the barrier dissipating and falling apart. So Kroq-Gar is described as him and all of his fellows fight their way into the city, hoping beyond hope that they can get to the Slann in time. And it is so bad. Like, the moment that barrier goes down, the demons are able to flood the city from every direction all at once. It is so bad that not only does it take Kroq-Gar and his squad an incredible amount of effort to fight to the center of the city, but by the time he gets into the city, everyone else is dead. Not just the Slann, everyone. Like, the entire city is absolutely massacred in a matter of minutes the moment the barrier goes down. And it had been holding, according to Kroq-Gar's story, for 30 years without incident. And then one little teeny tiny break in the defenses, and the entire city falls in just a couple of minutes. Which shows how absolutely horrific the demons are at this stage.
And the pressure.
And the pressure. Because the Slann weren't just like by themselves chilling out in this whole city. This is a whole functioning city of Temple Guard, Kroq-Gars, Stegodons, Skinks, and that little break in their defense just utterly slaughters everyone. And Kroq-Gar, with his spawn brothers and what's left of his army, is at the center of the city, and they are completely surrounded. And this is when the tide has really, really turned against the Lizardmen. And the fighting turns utterly, completely desperate. And Kroq-Gar is said to spend a pretty considerable amount of time, probably measured in days, if not weeks, just fighting, him and his brothers fighting for their lives at the center of the city against demons that just will not stop coming until they're forced to abandon it and do a fighting breakout where they fight their way free into the jungle so that they can take advantage of their mobility. Because one of Kroq-Gar's defining traits that 7th edition and 6th edition in particular really leaned into is that he prefers mobile armies.
Yeah.
Fast, hard-hitting. He is the hammer to all of those anvils. Of that, you've got a Carnosaur focal point with a bunch of Cold One Riders behind it that's just plowing its way through the jungles.
He's a shock troop leader.
Yeah. And that's what he leans into. This is where he masters that strategy because
surprise Carnosaur.
He's literally the surprise Carnosaur tactician. Because at this point, if he gets held in place for too long, they'll just get surrounded and there's no end to it. Their only choice is to run and fight. Run and fight, run and fight, run and fight. And the great tragedy here is that despite the hope that they might be able to turn things around or survive and yada, 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 Kroq-Gar, first of all, this is something we actually did not have confirmed until, of all places, the Total War Warhammer art book, which came out around a little bit before Warhammer 3. So it's got Warhammer 3 stuff in it, but it's for all 3 games. In it, there is a page where they're talking about the set of pages where they're talking about the Lizardmen, and there's a page about Kroq-Gar, and it finally reveals when he loses his arm.
I didn't know this. Now, this is new for me.
Yeah, because for most people, they just see him with the prosthetic arm, and they're like, "That's cool. When did that happen?" And it's revealed that during the Cataclysm Wars, when Kroq-Gar does the breakout and he starts his guerrilla war against the demons, there is an unnamed demon or group of demons that managed to tear his arm off of his body.
Seems fair.
And he just keeps going. If you go by the whole 12 Carnosaurs thing, it's very likely one of his Carnosaurs probably dies during this time period.
Although they do frequently say that it's only him and Grimlock that get out.
True. Well, so
this is one where I'm kind of happy with Grimlock 1 surviving. Yeah,
so one of the things so Kroq-Gar, when he breaks free of the city, the war carries on for another 500 years-ish. A little less, probably like 450 by this point. By the time, so between the breakout of Shodal and the end of the war, Kroq-Gar's army is whittled down until he is the only one left.
Yep.
Like, he is, by the end of the war, if you were a demon, they are basically, you can imagine your demons sitting around a campfire chatting with one another in the Lustrian jungle, as they do. But in the southern part of Lustria, where pretty much all the temple cities have fallen, there is a single Carnosaur rider with one arm wielding a god spear who's just running around murdering any and all demons that he can find. And he is just a one-man nasty force, but he's completely aimless. He doesn't have, he's not, breaking any sieges. He's not, he might be accomplishing some personal goals, but he's literally just running around in this horrific nightmare scenario of basically being trapped in an endless hell, and he does the only thing he can do, which is to kill and kill and kill and kill and kill and kill and kill. That's all he knows, and that's what he does until one day the demons just are gone.
The end of the Cataclysm. All the other shit being handled in other parts of the world goes. The elves do their thing, the dwarves do their thing, the Slan do their thing, and suddenly the demons are gone. And he's like,
Yeah, after 1,100 years of fighting, the demons just poof, and Kroq-Gar is left alone in the jungles of Lustria with no idea of who else has. As far as he knows, he is the only lizardman left alive in existence.
What a way to be, eh?
Yeah, depressing. And on that note, let's get caught up on super chats. Let's see here. Stephen Lucas, Turnip combined silly Warhammer humans with root vegetables.
Did that happen?
Is Turnip a person? Who is Turnip?
What the hell is happening here? What have I missed out on over in Lorebeards 40K? I feel like I've missed something really important here.
Yeah. Someone I need context. Turnip is a person. Okay. Who is Turnip? Is that a person with cat? Or was that who Ross was talking to? Because I don't remember his name being Turnip, but I did not. He's a miniature agnostic table. What the fuck? Oh, it's a war game. Oh,
is it? Right.
I've never heard of that.
Sure.
Turns out Andy was Turnip all along.
It wouldn't surprise me. Today, my brain is made of Swiss cheese. But yeah, totally. Sure.
Yeah, Gary Garanisons, my condolences to Andy, and happy birthday to Riot. Thank you. If the mounts were named after Transformers, how do we know they aren't actually Transformers?
My point exactly. I think it's actually Grimlock.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my headcanon.
That could explain it. It could explain how he's like 10,000 years old.
He's got a bit of energy on and got back together again. So he has fallen more than once.
Yeah, he's just had the breakers changed out 12 times. That's all it is.
Understand?
Cyclobear, lore-wise, is it possible for Soros to ride some kind of Lustrian flying creature? Yeah, as long as they had the Blessing of Itzel, they theoretically could. Also, pretty please stop neglecting. I haven't been neglecting it. There will be some more updates coming too. I put out, I think we put out like about 5 to 7 episodes about 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna, I've got another wave that's ready to go though.
You need someone to do that for
someone
you.
Someone else really needs to do that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fewer things we do,
pay someone. Yeah, but that means we have to pay someone.
Good point.
Gideon Gleeful, welcome back, Andy. Proposed this idea Sotek already, but what if Norska used to be connected to Nagorond back when it was like a supercontinent, and the underworld sea extended into Norska, which is what the Norse dwarves then adapted into their underground canal system?
I mean, the geological formations that are presenting this as an option, which are almost certainly based upon some existing formation, which probably wasn't geological, but very possibly was old one created, wouldn't necessarily need them to be connected. It just needs them to have a similar foundation point. So I think that seems more likely than saying that they used to be together. I'd say that it's a similar foundation point, and it probably has something to do with what the old ones were doing.
Getting Gleeful, future stream suggestion, similar to the Warhammerify monster stream, Warhammerify IRL locations. You are the second person to say that this stream. So very possibly. WPKM, can Lizardmen fast travel between Lustria and the Southlands, or are they truly separated? Also, does it make sense for Croc Boy to be in Fantasy Africa and Total War? Okay, so can you fast travel between them? You used to. Yeah, when Chup Yodel sinks, there is a specific note that Chup Yodel was a foundational nexus point that allowed easy communication and travel between the two. And when it goes down, that connection point is annihilated. They struggle to even talk to each other, much less send messengers. So
the answer to this one is much like many of the Lizardman questions. The answer is, whatever they want for the story at hand, they do. And they forget about all the iterations that they've had before, or the examples that contradict what they're doing. For example, Lizardmen can't just travel around and talk to each other whenever they want, but they can teleport straight to Albion. And Lizardmen can't communicate over to the Southlands from Lustria, because that's impossible, but we can get a Lizardman army anywhere in the world whenever we want. It's deeply contradictory. If we were building a consistent Lizardman situation, we wouldn't say the lizardmen can't do this. We'd say there's something in the Southlands that is stopping it from happening, because we know that the Lustrian lizardmen definitely can get almost anywhere in the world. It takes time, it takes pressure, it takes the slan to do shit, but it's not just possible, it's frequent. Which means that if they're not doing it in the Southlands, there's a reason. Now, that reason could be as simple as the old ones deemed that was not going to be the case. We know that's not really the case, but we need to have some formation of understanding as to why the Southlands, for reasons that can't just be, it's because we didn't want to make up Southland stuff, don't get communicated with. There is a reason, we don't know what it is yet, but it's not that they can't do it because they don't have the capabilities. It's that they can't do it because there's something wrong in that particular instance.
Yeah, getting from the Southlands to Lustria and vice versa, is it possible? Yes, very much.
Should it be easy?
Yeah,
actually, yes.
It should. Yeah, it should just require the Slan to make a portal. Which, granted, getting the Slan to do anything can be a bit of a Herculean task, but it's definitely possible. Now,
would
it's not
Mazdamundi want to do it? Given the stories we have, yes. So why doesn't he?
Yeah, and it could be like, me and Andy have kind of speculated on this before, it could be that perhaps the Southlands and Lustrian cities don't want to talk to each other.
They could be, the Southland ones might be actively pushing the Lustrians away. They might have their own active Old One plans that they're pursuing, meaning that the Lustrian lizardmen are always going to be on the outside of that particular dome, if you will. And that works, and it makes sense, and it also provides some agency over to the Southland lizardman cities. It means that they're more than just, they're the bastard brothers of the important Lustrian ones that are over here. They've got their own stories that they're telling over there, and they're possibly very different to what's happening over in Lustria. So yeah, there's a story here waiting to be told. I think I might have said that before.
Yeah. Does it make sense for Kroq-Gar to be in the Southlands in Total War? Sure, like it's whatever. Kroq-Gar quite literally has a rather infamous comment that we're going to get into because it says a lot without meaning to, which is that Kroq-Gar has a quote in every edition of his character that says he has fought on every continent on the planet, which is a bit of a throwaway line that makes you go, whoa, what? Especially in the earlier editions when, because in 8th edition, they very much talk about the teleportation aspect of the lizardmen very openly, where you have a whole comment about how Tehenwinen gets teleported into the Skaven city of Slagmire and just fucks it up. Which it's like, why don't we do this more often? But
because we haven't done it.
Yeah. But even back in 6th edition, when the lizardmen were very much they only stay in Lustria, and Albion is the one exception, Kroq-Gar was still nope, he's literally been everywhere, and he has fought everyone.
He's the fast attack blitzkrieg guy, and he has been everywhere. Does it make sense for him to be in Fantasy Africa? I think the answer is actually no. That doesn't make sense for it to be a place to be, but he could be anywhere. So the answer is also kind of yes, because he is their shock troop guy, where he go anywhere. Now, is that the best place for him? Of course it's not. But who the fuck else are you going to put there? And if they want a lizardman presence there, he's the best option for doing that. But broadly, not really. It's another example of those, game balance.
Yeah, it's you're looking at a board of there's lizardmen in Lustria, so someone should be there for them. Who are we going to pick? It's well, we're not going to dig up a Southlands character, so we'll just use
let's just go with Kroq-Gar. I mean, and he's fine. But if you're trying to build a nice, consistent narrative for why the communication between the two continents is low, and if you build it with any sort of consistent sense, then Kroq-Gar's not going to be an obvious part of that story unless they're saying in the end times he's the one that breaches and goes through, and that's fine. It's just they should tell the story behind that.
Getting gleeful. So in our version of the Fishman, I've got a time period called the Years of Ash and Blood, which is the period of the Cataclysm where things start to get really bad. Would minus 50, 56 be a good start date? Yeah, that'd be fine. Because in minus 5,000 is when shit really hits the fan. So that would be 56 years before that.
And also, if you're wanting to support the fishermen as an idea, I might not go with ash, because ash is dry heat on land. And for all you might be discussing stuff on land and naming it for what's going on land, if you're trying to support the primary themes of the lizardmen, you might want to go with something a bit more liquid. So I might consider a slightly different name for the ash part of it. Blood is perfect.
Drink-Claw, thoughts on Age of Sigmar's Demons of Light concept for Lizardman / Seraphon? Any ways to make that backwards compatible for fantasy? I adore the concept. Yeah, so I'm going to really hard TLDR this. But when Age of Sigmar initially launched, first edition, they tried a lot of experimental ideas. Like, they literally just grabbed a bunch of darts, threw it at the board, and they were like, oh, let's see what happens. And one of the ideas they went with was that the Lizardmen were all dead, and the only things surviving were the Slann. And what the Seraphon were is that they were literally manifestations of Azir, of the Slann, like remembering the Lizardmen into existence. So they were magical constructs. They were demons in a sense. They weren't real. They were the Lizardmen, the Slann, remembering them into existence, which was a cool concept. It caught a lot. It was very debated, but everyone was kind of like, okay, it's interesting. And then second edition rolled around. They went, wait, okay, never mind, hold up. What it actually is in second edition, they said, is that turns out that no, the Lizardmen are real, but some of them are remembered constructs, and then the rest of them are like actual flesh and blood. And then a later writer came and went, no. What it actually is that all the Lizardmen are real, but the ones that live on the spaceships, the like flying temple cities in space, those ones live up in the high realm of High Azir, and they're so charged with Azirite energy that when the Lizardmen attack, they would literally Star Trek beam them down to battlefields. And because they're emerging out of celestial light from the Star Trek beaming, the normal human beings, the mortals that see this go, oh my God, light demons or like celestial demons, but they're not actually demons. That's just people mistaking them.
Yeah. Demons. Okay, cool. So, towards your second part there, Drake-Claw, is there any way to make this backward compatible for fantasy? The answer is always yes. Always. And I'm going to bring up a single example of that because I sort of did this, and that's why I was being rather amused by the descriptions here. Because inside Lawhammer, there is a weird Lizardman thing that I won't go into any details. It was in Middenheim, and they are quite literally a memory that had been held by a Slann in that particular place to hold it. They were not real in the strictest sense of they were Lizardmen. They appeared like statues, and it's rather amusing listening to what he was saying. It's like, oh shit, that's what I was doing with those. Okay, right. I thought I'd been rather clever with that. Fuck. Oh no. As I slowly but surely shrunk. So can you do that sort of stuff? You absolutely can. There's space for everything inside the Warhammer world because it's so big and there's so many things that contradict each other that adding one extra thing in really doesn't make that much difference. And you can always make a single iteration of a thing in one place, which might contradict everything else, but it's only in one place, so you can do that thing there. So the answer is, yeah, go wild, have fun with it.
Yeah, magic be weird, yo. Yeah, like you can even have really goofy fun with it too. Like imagine, like you could have like a child that reads storybooks that involve about the Lizardmen that was written for children, but the child is a latent wizard. And his magic, like, literally manifests, without realizing it, manifests a lizard man that's not actually real, but it's just like his imagination. But it's still really fucking scary. Like, you could do all sorts of fun, crazy stuff like that if you want. Super Amaton. Happy birthday, land-based fishman. That is the technical term, I suppose. Yeah. Got myself another friend, Dark Deeds, for Christmas, and we enjoyed it greatly. What was the biggest mistake of the Lizardmen?
Not playing Dark Deeds enough.
Yeah, that was the one thing that fucked them over is that they didn't have a good enough appreciation for excellent board games.
The biggest mistake of Lizardman's a tough one.
Yeah, it's hard because the things that you would most easily level at their feet would be things that if they didn't have would mean they're no longer the Lizardmen.
Yeah.
Because I would say that the easiest one is that they, in my opinion, if I was looking at them from a very human perspective, would be the argument that they relied too heavily on the plaques of the old ones when they should have simply been observing the world and interacting with it and trying to fix things in their own way. But if they did that, they literally just wouldn't be the Lizardmen anymore.
Yeah. I mean, much of what makes them what they are dictates what they do, and what they do is only happens because of what they are. So often that would be all boiled down to either you accept that their core religion, if you wish to call it religion, their core philosophical standpoint, which is we are the children of the old ones and we will see their plan through, is right or wrong. And that's their biggest mistake, if you think it's a mistake. And it makes every other problem or every other benefit, depending on how you look at it. It is the core of who they are. But to remove that is to change the star children that are the Lizardmen. They become something different. And then everything that they do is different. So it's really difficult to pin this one down.
Yeah, the only one I can think of that I don't think the lore explicitly states is something that the old ones demand, but rather is the nature of the Slann in a sense, is that the Lizardmen probably should have been less isolated. Like they should have reached out to the younger races more than they did.
Yeah, and you get the idea that they didn't do that because they were written in after.
The Lizardmen, I mean, especially if you read like 6th edition leans heavily into this on purpose, and 8th edition you could tell looks back at it and goes, ugh, we want this to not be the case, but we also don't want to change too much.
Yeah.
Is that in 6th edition, the Lizardmen are, they're like, you literally would read the big core book, the big red book, and it's like, not from the Lizardman perspective, it's from a human perspective of like a archaeologist or whatever. And he's like, oh, I don't believe this nonsense that there's man-sized lizards over in Lustria. Like, they don't exist. And people that bring back their bones are clearly like cobbling together fake things. And it's
I can't be quiet.
I
hated that when I read it, pardon me, with such a passion that I have to immediately say, in a fantasy world where they literally have every fucking thing that they could possibly imagine coming down from the mountains, and they go, oh, but a lizard? No.
Yeah, nope, can't be that.
Yeah, bullshit. Okay, I'll now shut up.
Yeah, and this is a criticism I will level, and I'm not is that 6th edition Lizardmen were very much the trope of there's weird native peoples over in them jungles dancing around the fire, being all weird with their shamanistic nonsense and their dark magic hoo-ha. It was very much that trope. Like, if you've watched any of like the old like 1940s black and white movies, like the old King Kongs and the stuff like that, the way they traded native folk out in the jungles, or like the Heart of Darkness and any of those old books and stuff like that. That's how the
pulp tribesmen.
Yeah, that's what they were, literally. Yeah. Like that, they were mysterious tribesmen that were capable of fighting back because they were big lizards. And 8th edition,
it doesn't quite match their story.
Yeah, when you get to 8th edition's trying to tell a story of like, oh, these are the great ancient cold guardians of order that are affecting the entire world, but they're also trying to do that while simultaneously hanging on to the original concept of like, oh, they're also the weird native folk over in their jungle that nobody knows about and nobody can talk to. And those ideas don't really fit together, which is why in Age of Sigmar they completely abandoned that.
Yeah, and you can see why. Because if you're creating a game where each one of the factions can fight any of the other factions at any time, it's quite important that those factions are in contact with each other. They changed the Wood Elves significantly. When they repitched the Wood Elves back in, the end of 4th edition, 5th edition, they basically turned them into a xenophobic group of, I hate everybody else, and I only live in Athelloren, fuck the world. And as each one of the iterations for the Wood Elves came out after that, they went, actually, they've made alliance. Actually, they can go through the world routes and be anywhere. Actually, the Wood Elves are a force around the world. And the Lizardmen went through a similar process. To begin with, they were the tribesmen just down in Lustria/Southlands. No one else has seen them pretty much ever, to what eventually came in 8th edition. No, actually, we need to have this army everywhere. But the Lizardmen have held on to a lot of its original trappings. And it doesn't make a great deal of sense with this ancient Guardians of the World story that the Slann are supposedly telling. Parts of it make sense, where the Slann are in the background doing all sorts of world-spanning things. That's cool. Much of it which is unseen, also kind of cool. But at the same point, when they then iterate a change around the world and they send Lizardmen to do shit, somehow, like the Skaven, they're forgotten. And the various forces that they have intermixed with, I'm attacking the Skaven, like we said earlier. We need to attack the Empire. We need to attack Karang Thay. We need to do things to stop these other peoples from doing stuff. Yet, nevertheless, when you move through into the book, it's, well, you know when Kroq-Gar went out and he did his big massive attack into the heart of Naggaroth? Yeah, they don't talk about that anymore. And it's a bit of a shame because the Lizardmen are thus both cast as these great world shifters who are doing stuff all over the world, and simultaneously these weird hermits that never touch anything. And if we're going to answer that question, the biggest mistake of the Lizardmen is that Games Workshop didn't know how to handle Lizardmen.
Yeah, I would suspect if and when they return in the old world, the Lizardmen will be cast in a very different light than they were.
They're going to have to be, aren't they?
Yeah, in fantasy, which I look forward to. I hope that's the case, and I would love that. I would love for the Lizardmen to be like how Grand Cathay is. Grand Cathay in the old world is very busy, and they are up in everybody's business, which was not the case in old fantasy.
Yeah.
Zero Daimu. Brief backstory, Kroq-Gar is the Doomslayer. No, Oxyodal's the Doomslayer. No one can take that from Ox. Listen, Kroq-Gar was great. Kroq-Gar was more like Rambo. Oxyodal was in hell, and the demons were like, where is this guy? And he's just out there like killing people just like crazy. He's being a goober. The Bone. I just found out that ogre men are called bulls. Are ogre women called cows?
I have an official answer from Games Workshop on this. In that, I asked this exact question. Because the ogre men are called bulls. And I sent a message, because I've been writing all the ogre stuff, and I said, there's an unfortunate question that I'm going to have to ask. If the men are called bulls, does that mean we continue that language and refer to the female ogres as cows?
I'm sure they were thrilled when that email showed up.
That is not great. And this pause was significant. Eventually, I got an email back saying, don't do that. And rightly. But the reason that I pitched it was because somebody had written me an entire ogre document where they were called cows. And that was unfortunate. In the 4th edition, this question came up again because one of the writers wrote it, and I had to go, crap, I'm going to have to answer this question again. And I wanted to make the call, but it's not my call because it's not for me to say yes or no, it's for Games Workshop. So I gave a quick ping over to Games Workshop and said, here's the doc, this is what they've done. And I got the reply, why the fuck are they calling them cows? What is this? I was like, thanks, because that's exactly what I think. Great, we will go back to it. So the answer to this one is, at the moment, definitely not. But that doesn't mean that some later writer won't slip it in because it's never been said officially.
Yeah, because someone was like, bulls, like a big cow, and they're good on the charges, and bull sounds dead hard, and they didn't think about the other half of that equation. Yeah.
It's something that I think could have done with, again, a little bit more sensitivity in terms of trying to figure out the culture rather than just figure out the cool. Because often when it comes to Warhammer armies, the cool comes first, and then a writer has to come along afterwards, often from the roleplay side, sometimes from the novel side, and try to make sense of it all. And this is one that's yet to have the sense made. I wanted to tackle this directly inside the Ogre update that Ben Sherry, I think B. Sherry was working on that when I left the production job in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But the eventual Ogre article that got written was a bit different to what we originally pitched.
Yeah, they dodged this question in Wolf.
But I was going to tackle this one directly because I was going to give effectively a bit of space to female ogres, their position in society, how some of them were matriarchal, how they were named, all the rest of it, because that's stuff you need for role-playing games. Because if you're playing a female ogre, you need to know what that means. If you're playing a male ogre, a lot of the core tropes are already in place, and you've got stuff you can draw upon because it's described inside the war game. But when you're playing the female ogre, it's not described, so it needed a bit more meat.
There is a high chance this might be about to be addressed, as the very reliable rumor mongers for AOS that we're getting our first their ogres are getting a new book this edition. It's coming with a range refresh. But one of the big things is that we're getting a very major special character for the ogres, the ogre gluttons, and the big special character is.
I was told that wasn't the case. Just so we get it clear, Michael Beasley, when it says bull was just a warrior classification, I was told it was their males. That was it. Which is why we had to end up having to tackle the cow question, because you kind of have to ask, and I really didn't like asking, but I did it because it was my job.
Yeah, but supposedly the big bad, like literally the big centerpiece model special character for the ogres is going to be a female character. It's going to be the daughter of Glob Glittermaw. Don't know her name. Yeah, don't know her name yet, but I hope that's true, because that model will be fucking awesome. But we'll see what happens. All right, from there we've got Darius. If Gorrock was Kroq-Gar's age, who would win? So this is kind of like asking if Goliath from Biblical Tale fought Achilles, who would win if they were like the same age. It kind of depends a little bit, but more than likely the more skilled combatant.
Whoever wrote it would decide.
Whoever wrote it would be the winner. And more than likely, whoever is writing would probably make Kroq-Gar win, because he's a bit more of an established older character. Because ultimately, my question that I would ask to you is: are you putting them on all? Are you giving them all of their tools? Like, is Kroq-Gar on Grimlock? He wins very easily. Are they being forced to fight on foot? Well, then it's not really Kroq-Gar, is it? If he's without a mount, then it's not really Kroq-Gar in his full kit.
In some respects, actually, to more broadly answer this is one of the reasons why the Who Would Win streams that we did some time ago became very difficult. Because where do you draw the line as to what is that character? And the answer is always you can draw it wider. So this is just a toughie to ever make a clean-cut answer for.
What I can say is this. Gorrock is an absolute... Funny enough, Gorrock is Kroq-Gar's original design. Kroq. That's what Gorrock is. Yeah. He's a really fucking big Saurus. He's the biggest Saurus there is. So he's stronger than Kroq-Gar. That's for sure. So if that's what you're asking, then yeah. He also is able to take a mortal wound better than Kroq-Gar can, because he can kind of shrug those off and just keep going. But Kroq-Gar has the literal protection of a god, which we're going to get into a little later. Which gives him
and it's not a small thing, by the way.
No, it's a mean fucking thing. So your mileage will vary. Yeah. Stephen Lucas, I like the idea that Kroq-Gar lost 11 just in the Cataclysm War. That would be a little funny.
You know what? That would work really well. I actually really like that one. He lost all of them during the Cataclysm, and the one that he comes out of the Cataclysm with is just immortal from that point onwards.
Just one dies every century. That would be very silly. That would be one of those moments where if you were making a movie about it, it would be like it would be like the Puss in Boots montage where it shows how he died the other 8 times. Darius Rose, in terms of combat power lore-wise, where would you put Saurus Temple Guard compared to a normal human soldier? Normal human is going to get absolutely
eaten,
torn to pieces by either of those.
I mean, easily, especially Temple Guard. Yeah, easily. I mean, basics. I mean, even if you just look at the base stats in Warhammer, which are always a good indicator of where to base your starting point. They start with like 2 attacks at a weapon skill 4, so 1 attack for a human, 2 attacks for a basic Saurus. Weapon skill 4 for your Temple Guard, weapon skill 3 for a human. You're basically above on everything. They've also got strength 4 and toughness 4 in comparison to strength 3 and toughness 3. They're going to wipe the floor with them every single time. Saurus suck. They are super good warriors.
Yeah, that human would need a genuine fucking mirror. Swords are bad enough that if you have a good, very good gun and you're very good at shooting it, there's still not a great chance you're going to come out of that alive.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a gun, classic Warhammer side, it's still 4+ to wound and then a 5+ save on the Saurus side. Again, these are rules, but rules-wise, Saurus kick ass. No other way of putting it. They kick ass. And they are described as that consistently throughout the lore as well. They are not just better than a human, they are significantly better than a human.
Yeah, they're spooky. Yeah. Walking Tree, it's weird that such a violent character has a weapon that sounds like a pacifist's dream. I mean, it sounds more like an Acer artifact than anything else. I think there's potentially
the Acer aren't pacifists.
Yeah, no, they're not. I will say the thing that I love that you mentioned that I think is worth talking about for a second is that the revered spirit Tlantla very much comes off like a weapon that was meant to dominate rather than kill. Mm-hmm.
He kills with it.
Yeah, Kroq-Gar just fucking runs you through and doesn't care. But it very much, the weapon is its description literally says that it saps the will to fight out of the people that it's used to hurt. Which almost, I agree, does almost give the idea that Tlantla used it to dominate enemies rather than kill them.
Yeah, I agree. The weapon itself has clearly got a bigger story and is probably being misused now, in that it's being used in a different way. But he uses it to murder. A pacifist dream, arguably, depends how it's used. It's also a warrior's dream because it can murder people really effectively. I will say, though, that I disagree strongly with the Azure line because every single Azure artifact is a murder bot. They ride dragons and burn everything. The Azure are born killers, all of them. Faster, higher weapon skill, much more capable than most other forces in the world, and they're not afraid to do so. There's a reason Tyrion is called Mad Killer. They are the freaking worst. They are not pacifists by any stretch, and if you think they are, you have fallen for the propaganda of the High Elves.
Yeah, let's keep in mind that the Acer have literally created super weapons that are so bad that, like, the Lizardmen don't mess with old one tech unless they have a pretty good idea of what it does and they can control it. The elves have invented stuff that other elves look at them and go, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, indeed. The Azure are a very complicated race, I suppose, of elves that are not pacifist by nature.
You know,
although many of them will claim to be.
Look
at the Everqueen.
Yeah, Vol's
Everqueen's a noted warrior.
Ain't producing crowd control weapons.
Yeah,
it's kill you stuff. WPKM stream on Southlands and Ungsport factions. One day that would be fun to do.
One day it would be fun to have anything to talk about.
It would be a lot of us bullshitting. You know what? That might be better for if we ever had a special guest that could talk to us about like African mythos and culture, cool. And we talked about like maybe what could be done with that in Warhammer. That would be, I would love to do that one day. I don't know anyone like that, but
well, neither do I. If anyone out there does know someone that you think is an expert on African history who could bring a depth of knowledge and awareness to the table, that'd be great.
Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah, get in contact with us.
Ricky Chapman,
Ricky. What's it going to be?
In our Chaos Wolfram campaign, in an abandoned city in the southern end, we found ancient carvings telling of one of the Everchosen who died in battle against a lizard god who rode a wingless dragon and held the sun in his hand.
Sounds likely.
That would be a very baller way to introduce PCs to a concept of Kroq-Gar.
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, we're not there yet, but when we actually get into describing everything Kroq-Gar can do, he does come off like a demigod, to be frank. Like, if you were a human witnessing Kroq-Gar in the field of battle, you would probably think you were watching a god. Because some of the stuff he does is absolute horseshit. In a fun way. But yeah, that's very cool. That is a very cool depiction of something that very realistically could have happened. Quebec Prime, just letting you know, my friend loved Dark Deeds so much he actually bought a copy for himself and plays with his parents.
Oh, Thank you, Quebec. I'm so glad you enjoyed the game. We really enjoy it too. I just got the invoice through for how many copies sold the last quarter. Nowhere near enough for us to justify anything. So we're currently deciding how best to handle things. But regardless, thank you so much for playing and enjoying it, because we love that game.
Telling you, fucking what's not GoFundMe, the other version. The same thing, but
Kickstarter.
Yeah, Kickstarter. I'm telling you, it's got to be a Kickstarter.
Yeah, probably.
Snow Sif, or is it Snow Ziff? Just sending love to Andy. I appreciate everything you guys do and help us Wolfrip people further enjoy the RPG. Ryan, you're wonderful too.
Just make sure we all understand. Happy birthday, Ryan. I'll just say one more time, thank you so much. And apologies, my brain is all over the place for the stream. It will all settle down in a few weeks.
Yeah. That's I know that you meant that only genuinely, but I love to think of that as just you're good too. Yeah. that shit kills me. As a random aside, that reminds me of the last time I was visiting my extended family down in Houston. I love the story. I have a great aunt who's very lovely, very nice little Catholic lady, super Catholic. And when she came up to me and my siblings, me and my sister, who are relatively close in age, my younger sister, we are not married. We are single and just kind of enjoying life. My elder brother, who's 4.5 years older than me, is married. And is like trying to have kids and stuff. And my aunt, once again, very Catholic aunt, walks up to me and my sister and is like, "Oh, it's lovely to see y'all, yada yada," like nice pleasantries and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, thanks." She goes over to my brother and just starts like, "Oh, you look so handsome. Y'all are such a beautiful couple. I'm so proud." It's like, oh, okay, good to know that there's clearly apparently being
a hierarchy.
Yeah, apparently having you are potentially producing grandnephews or nieces immediately kicks you up in the hierarchy.
You understand?
Like, you're single? Get out of here. You're useless. Useless children. Skylar Martin, Andy, great to have you back. I have a question. Where in Lustria is my favorite dinosaur that child me grew up loving? Stegosaurus. More dinosaurs, dang it.
Yeah, I love the Stegosaurus too. And the answer is currently kind of nowhere. But hey, Southland's as good as anywhere else.
Yeah. And just make up your own critters, guys. Like, there's one thing the roleplay game has showed is that, don't be limited by what's been written by GW.
Yep.
Gideon Gleeful, when did the gods leave the world? Before or after the polar gates collapse? So
this is
gods. Oh, the gods.
Is answered clearly. Tome of Salvation picks this out directly because they reference the elven myths for the War of the Gods, the War in Heaven. And in chapter 1, it makes it quite clear that during the Cataclysm, the elven gods are warring against the Chaos gods directly in the mortal plane. And the last fight that they have is after Azurin has died at the pyramid of Azurin himself, where the gods are at war. And the sword that I mentioned earlier, the Sword of Judgment, is being wielded by Hoeth in that battle. So he's wielding a weapon of the old ones that had been stolen from the Chaos Gates, where it had been held. And that battle is explained. So that means we can say definitively, if we believe the myths, that the gods left the world after the polar gates collapsed. And they were involved in the battle during the Cataclysm. And at some point, if you go with the elven myths, Azurin returns because he's reincarnated in that battle. He bursts back to life at the top of his pyramid and comes down his pyramid and pushes back all the chaos forces and then tells all the gods to fuck off out the world. He's done. So that happened during the Cataclysm, not before.
Yeah, which, if you're like, oh, but how does this work with the Anarian? Keep in mind that even if you go with the Anarian storyline, as if you want to have both of those being completely canonical events, there is
it happens after. There's hundreds of years.
Yeah. There's it's a long fucking war. It's a long ass war.
Mm-hmm.
There is a good 600 plus years way before Anarian shows up in the story.
Anarian is born into the world after this happens. So he's born into the world where the gods have left. And Anarian then returns to the pyramid afterwards and says, "Hey, Azurin, come back. Like you did before. Come back." And Azurin's like, "Nah, And he's like, please. And he begs and he pleads and he does all sorts of stuff. And he's like, nah. And then at the very last moment, he goes, yeah, okay. And he makes the first avatar of one of the gods and possesses, for want of a better word, Inarian, creating the first avatar of a god. So the answer is both of them happened during that cataclysm.
Drinklaw, how intelligent are Kroq-Gars compared to other dim species such as trolls, ogres, etc.? Would you ever accept a Kroq-Gar PC like you would an ogre? So,
yes.
Yes. Yeah. So what I would say here is that trolls are a completely different category. Trolls are so goddamn fucking stupid that it's like they're a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Ogres and Kroq-Gars, I would say, are not stupid. They are very specialized, is probably the best way to look at them. The things that they are designed for, the things that they are good at, they are savants. They can be genius level intellects.
Builders.
Kroq-Gars are god tier builders. They know how to build. They know how to move things. They know how to the function they were designed for, which is as functionally construction workers. They are pristine, and they are incredibly smart. They know their limits to a great level. They are much more animalistic than other lizardmen are depicted. Yeah. So they have a lot of instincts, like they're expert hunters. They kind of act like big fucking crocodiles, where they kind of hang out in the water with their heads just above, and they're ambush predators and all this stuff. Kroq-Gars, there's actually a rather amusing thing that I criticize the Lustro book very heavily on, which has actually been an argument within the Lizardman books itself, where in the 6th edition Lizardman book, which actually delves into the language of Saurian, which sadly the later books stopped doing as much world building. But in the 6th edition book, it says that the Kroq-Gars have a dialect of speech, but it's mostly single syllables, and they have like this really low guttural form of speaking, and they use very simple terms that are mostly used for construction and warfare. And then I can't remember if it was 7th or 8th edition came out and was like, oh, Kroq-Gars just don't talk. Like they can't talk. And then Total War showed up and went, that's stupid. They absolutely can't talk. And then the roleplay game, 4th edition Illustrator book came out and said, no, they can't talk. So it's a matter of personal interpretation. I prefer that they can, because it just lets you do more with them. But could you have a PC Kroq-Gar? Yes. Would they be very, very limited in many ways? Yes. I would say they would be exceptionally hard to roleplay.
Yeah, the only way to make a Kroq-Gar PC is to have a good 4 or 5 pages worth of a book dedicated to playing a Kroq-Gar PC and understanding how it's different to playing anything else. Without that, then you just don't make them playable because no one's going to do it right. Because Kroq-Gar are very simple. Very simple. Yeah, and so are ogres. But ogres are simple in a way that we as humans really understand, because many of their base processes are the same as base human processes. Kroq-Gar are much more alien. They're different. They're lizardine. They are a different form of creature. Now, if you want to view their almost idiosavant capability of building, we have real world examples of this. Take a look at, for example, a spider. A spider is an extraordinary builder of webs, and it has basically no brain. It can create these extraordinary, delicate processes and understands no step of what it's doing at all. It does everything by instinct. And in some respects, the Kroq-Gar are the same. What they do is built into them. It is hard-coded into their genetic makeup by the old ones. But they also have brains. They've got their own dialect, if you go with one version of them. They've got their own capability of speech, and they work with the other lizards. If they were purely animals, they wouldn't be able to work with the other lizardmen. And they do completely. They integrate with their society. They're a part of their society. And that means you must be able to at least portray them, if not necessarily play them as a PC. So my answer to this one was, are they as dim as trolls? No. Ogres, differently dim, but about the same level. Would you ever accept a Kroq-Gar PC? I would, but it would take a lot of work to make it work well.
Yeah, the one thing I would give you as advice, either as a GM or as a player, is one of the best features for a PC that Kroq-Gars are known for is that Kroq-Gars very much fulfill the trope of the big buddy. They love skinks and they bond to smaller creatures.
They do.
And there is a note that Kroq-Gars enjoy being around small, energetic creatures that kind of energize them in a sense. Usually this is skinks, but this has led to a lot of fan art that I always really, really love seeing, where you'll usually have a concept of like a child, or it'll usually be like an elf child or a human child that just happens to come across a Kroq-Gar somewhere, and the Kroq-Gar bonds to them. It is a bonding creature, and this Age of Sigmar actually took this up to a whole new level with the Kroq-Gar War Spawned, where if a skink gets hurt anywhere near a Kroq-Gar, the Kroq-Gars go fucking berserk. Like if you hurt their little guys, they get pissed. So there's something there that you can play around, mess with, but it
at the very least, there's some really cool stories there. In that you can use a Kroq-Gar as a vehicle for different types of stories. One that bonds with a baby and steals it. One that bonds with something that is, and then the PCs are in a position where they've got to deal with something that's really aggressively trying to protect something that doesn't, and from their perspective, need its protection. There's also cool things you can do for a story with it. Does it make a good PC? In most situations, no, but that doesn't mean it can't be used.
Jonathan, I would say it's one of those ones where you would probably need a pair of PCs to really make it work.
Yeah, then you could make it really work, because the story they're telling in conjunction with each other could work well. Or if you're playing troop play, you could play two PCs at once, where you're playing both the skink and the Kroq-Gar. That would work really well, because you've got a vehicle to speak through the skink, and you've got a vehicle to be physical with the Kroq-Gar. So you can play more than one character at once.
Yeah, Jonathan King. My theory is that Source Warriors fresh out of the spawning pool are just given a number, and only after they've survived a certain amount of years or do something of note is when they are named. Sure. I mean, that could be the case. It could be that the Lizardmen have a registry for names that the old ones gave them that they use, or maybe your name is based on the constellations at the time or the alignment of the planets. There's all sorts of different things, especially when you consider how superstitious skinks are, and skinks are probably who give you your name. It's probably the skinks that assign names.
I think the best answer here is the same answer that's often deployed in the Empire, which is the Empire is really big and has many cultures, and each of those cultures has got its own practices. And the same will be the case for the many different communities of skinks, all of which are based around different ancient practices from different cities, and eventually spawning back from one of the old ones or one or more of the old ones. They'll all have their own traditions, many of which will be laced through with superstitions which have nothing to do with where they originally came from. So where a Saurus may be exactly named as you described in one place, the next spawning pool along and the next city along, it could be a completely different situation where it's based on the stars, or it's based upon which way they make their way out of the pool, and they're given a particular mark that they wear around their neck. Each one will have a different version. So I don't think running with a single example of how it must be is the best route. Just say it's very complicated, it's deep, and there's lots of different iterations. You can make up your own, and here's a wide variety of sample names and how they work.
Yep. Getting gleeful. Why do all the elite polearm users have halberds in Warhammer? No pikes or spear/shields elites. Okay, so if you want the actual answer to this, it's because most of them are too thin and the mini breaks, or they're too hard to rank up. That was why.
I mean, and the straight up ones, pikes aren't hard to rank up. They're super easy to rank up.
Yeah, but they break like a motherfucker.
Break, and you got to remember that most of the troops were designed back in the metal era, and lead pikes sucked. I know, because all of mine broke. I had several lead pikes from various ranges. Warhammer tend to keep everything down into the easy to spin, as in the lead is spun into the molds. Easy to spin, less likely to break model mold.
Yeah, and the halberds were thicker.
And it's always I designed with a nice big thick chunky bit at the top, and they worked much better. It's one of the reasons why. One of the reasons why pikes don't exist pretty much across Warhammer, and they absolutely also do exist. In that, if you read up some of the descriptions from Dogs of War, for example, the pikemen often pop up there, but very rarely do you see them as a core troop. But it's not because pikes are rubbish in Warhammer; it's because pikes don't make good miniatures.
Yep. Ryan's here. But Andy!
Thanks, Joe.
WPKM, Home Team History 806 and Damon Sith. Check them out in regards to. Oh, is this about the African history stuff? If so, post that in the Lorebeards Discord and at me, because I'll remember it. that way.
That'll make it more likely to happen.
Yeah, Nathan Hall, are most lizardman monsters raised and bred or found and tamed? Do the lizardmen have different languages for the different species? Well wishes, Andy. So it depends on the monster. If you're dealing with a big beastie, so like stegodons, carnosaurs, bastillodons, they usually try and take those as eggs and raise them from hatchlings, because at adult size, they're just too big and they're often too ornery and a pain in the ass. But like pterodons, ripidactyls, and those kind of creatures, some of them that are more salamanders, razordons, most of those are found and tamed in adolescent to adulthood because they're easier to manage. It usually is more of a size problem than anything else. Do they have different languages? No. The reptiles of Lestria are not like sapient. Like they're not speaking eloquent cultural creatures. They're animals. They're just full on animals. The only major exception to this is the quaddles, which the quaddles are like very intelligent, ancient, old one, mysterious bird, dragon, serpent things.
I think he's asking, do the lizardmen, different types of lizardmen have different languages rather than do the lizard monsters?
They have different dialects. Is how it's
lots of different dialects across each one of the cities. And the different lizardmen have different ways of enunciating sound because of the way their mouths work. So they all have slightly different versions amongst the different. The races really. Species really, aren't they? Because they can't crossbreed. So the different species of lizardmen.
Yeah. So yes. Well, yes and no, but yes. Like it's a common tongue, but it's spoken differently by each of the species.
Yeah.
Russ W1256. A bit late, but just like to offer my sincere condolences to Andy and the family. Happy birthday, Sotek, as well. May Krimgelto bless you both. Fucking Krimgelto. Thank you. So, okay. Back to Kroq-Gar. Thank you for all the support. We really appreciate it. So, where we left off, Kroq-Gar was in a bit of a slump. He had lost his purpose. All of his spawn brothers are dead. His city is dead. His Slawn are dead. Everybody's fucking dead. And he is literally just out in the middle of the jungle, one arm missing. He's just got a big, nasty hole there. And it's probably been that way for decades, if not centuries. And pretty quickly, after the demons are banished, he receives literally a psychic message where Lord Mazdamundi, way the fuck up in Heshwaddle. So we're talking on the complete other side, because Shodal is a decent way south. Lord Mazdamundi psychically, he basically does like the best way I can describe it is he does like a check on like what is still functioning, who's still around. And likely, I would suggest, this isn't stated, but I would suggest it's the case. Because of the revered blade Tlantla, Mazdamundi is almost immediately aware of where Kroq-Gar is. It makes him light up like a beacon from a Slawn perspective. And Mazdamundi reaches out to Kroq-Gar and summons him to the city. And Kroq-Gar just immediately takes off north, goes past Itza, he goes past Tlantla, he goes past all the other active cities, and he goes up to Heshwaddle, where he is received by Lord Mazdamundi, who has all of the skinks attend to him, clean up his wounds, and Lord Mazdamundi assigns him a new role, which is that he is given the rank of Ancient Scar Leader and is put in charge, basically as the 5-star general of Lestria.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and
Ancient Scar Leader.
Yeah, as a gift and an acknowledgement of this role, Lord Mazdamundi presents Kroq-Gar and has him equipped with the Hand of the Gods, which is the prosthetic arm that he has. Now, the fun thing about the Hand of the Gods is that if you go look back at the 6th edition model, it's not a prosthetic. It's actually just a glove.
Attached over it with the claws out.
Yeah, but it's just a glove. But then in the 7th edition artwork of Kroq-Gar, they made it into a prosthetic, and then in 8th edition, they reworked the mini to make it a full-on prosthetic. So there's no more lizard arm inside it. It's just all metal. And the Hand of the Gods is one of the most kind of fascinating... it's one of the most mysterious aspects of Kroq-Gar, of that it is... originally, it was very... The Hand of the Gods is obviously a very big spooky title, and there wasn't much information given on it other than it was capable of unleashing miniature light that just destroys people. And it went through a couple of rather funny iterations. It was always a bound spell, which was interesting, but not always. Eventually, it stopped being a bound spell.
No, as I recall, it wasn't even a spell to begin with.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's just anyone. Spell. You just within 8 inches, you just go here, take D6 strength 4 hits. Ha!
Yeah, that's right. It actually got
armor saves. You're fucked.
Yeah, it got nerfed.
It got pretty hard nerfed because it got turned into a spell, which meant it could be dispelled. Where previous to that, it was basically just the laser beams.
Yeah, so the original version, which was actually back when it was a glove, the thing that was cool about it, and that I always loved, was that it wasn't a ball of light like we kind of think of it now. What it was is that it would charge up and he would point his fingers at you like he's Palpatine, and it would shoot searing beams of light. And this thing fucking sucked, or was nasty, because it used to hit everyone in his line of sight within range. So he just pointed his fingers and everybody in front of him just got nailed and ignored armor. It was a mean weapon in 6th edition. Dude. It fucking hurt. Once you then in later editions, in 7th edition, it got nerfed and buffed simultaneously. So it got a longer range, but it was still the finger shot. And he would hit everyone within 12 inches that he could see, but it was a bound spell. So you didn't get it for free. It had to charge up magic before he fired it at you. And then 8th edition gave it the shittiest version, to be very blunt, where they just made it...
Didn't even give it its own rules. Here, have this spell. Fuck off.
Yeah, they just made it Shim's Burning Gaze, but they also changed the way it was depicted, because in the 8th edition artwork, it's depicted as he creates a miniature sun in the palm of his hand, and then he fires that at you. Which is what ended up inspiring the Total War version. War. Made it a bound Shim's Burning Gaze, and now it still hurts like a motherfucker. Mm-hmm. But the Hand of the Gods, though, other than looking super fucking cool and suggesting the idea that the Lizardmen had some kind of very impressive prosthetic technology that came from the old ones, it was kind of it looks cool, it's good aura farming, the end.
Yeah, I agree with that one hard, actually. It's one of those artifacts, magic items, that as I saw it develop through the editions, I almost was screaming at them, do something. What is it? Where did it come from? How is this a thing? Was it made specifically for him? Is it not made specifically for him? Is it something that incorporates an artifact of the old ones, or is it not an art? Is it just a spell? Because if it's just a spell, it's almost mundane in the greater scheme of artifacts that you get in Warhammer. But its name, the Hand of the freaking Gods, it suggested so much, but the actual reality of it was so much less.
Yeah, so this is one of the few times, not the only times, but the few times where the end times actually showed up and went, we're going to fix this.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. So in the end times, the Hand of the Gods' true purpose, its form, is revealed, of that when all the magic of the end times comes flowing in and Kroq-Gar gets into his big fight with Lord Kroq, the Hand of the Gods is revealed to be an artifact that literally uplifts Kroq-Gar into something more.
Yeah. Now, we discussed this at some length over in the scroll screen. For obvious reasons.
Yes, Kroq does get his shit rocked by it.
Holy crap! And I don't just want to reiterate what Ryan said. I want to really strongly buttress it up and say this is one of the examples where the end times did good, where it took something that was sort of hanging fruit and it went, oh, let's pluck that down and use it in a way that it should always have been used. And it basically said, you know that thing that was Hand of the Gods? It is.
Yeah, it literally is. That it is an artifact that when Kroq is at the absolute peak of his power, just annihilates him. Like in one of the most Marvel movie, oh shit, when Marvel movies were good moments.
Although Wonder Man is a great series.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet. I'll have to.
Oh, it's
I'll
great.
have to look at that.
It's truly great. I loved it.
Yeah. So the because when that I will always, that was one of the peak highlight moments for me of End Times Thankful, was when Kroq fights Kroq-Gar, and Kroq's just killing everything around him. He one-shots Grimlock. One hit, he just kills him instantly. You're like, Jesus. And then Kroq-Gar's like, nah, fuck that. You're done, man. He goes up against a Vermin Lord, and the hand of, not anything else, not the spear, not Kroq-Gar himself, the hand of the gods makes the most one of the most powerful Vermin Lords flee in terror.
Mm-hmm.
Which that feels like a thing that should be called the hand of the gods.
Rather than Shem's burning gaze.
Yeah, rather than just burning gaze. In that if you're looking from an AOS perspective, Kroq-Gar ascends to be the first Seraphon.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes a lizard man that is so infused with the wind of Hysh that he is literally glowing like a shining sun god. Which is very fitting from a artifact that was given to him from Heshwaddle, the City of the Sun. But back to Kroq-Gar's actual story. Everything from this point forward is fun, and we're going to touch on it, but not a lot of like super crazy important things until we get to
war.
It's a lot of wars.
War.
It's mostly Kroq-Gar box his way around Lustria and the rest of the world, kicking ass, chewing bubblegum. We get a couple of like gum. Plus, I can't imagine it can be that good for you when you got a lizard-sized shaped mouth. The next big war that we see him show up for is actually like fairly much later in the timeline. But the next big time we see him is at a battle in a war called the Shrunken Head War, which sounds quite delightful.
I don't remember that one. Where's that one?
So it's a random call out in the 8th edition Lizardman book in the timeline.
It's in the timeline. That's why I don't recall it.
Yeah. And the Shrunken Head War, which the Shrunken Heads is actually a very fun callback to the older Lizardmen. They kind of ditched the Shrunken Heads as you got into later Lizardmen. Yeah. But in early editions, Lizardmen used Shrunken Head stuff all the time in the older books. But the Shrunken Head War was basically that there was a war in Lustria, that the Savage Orcs got really stirred up, and it was basically 6 great, horrible war bosses all teamed up to make a big war that was bad enough that the war lasted for 100 years.
Holy crap.
Which is a long-ass campaign against Greenskins.
It really is.
Yeah, and the war is only... like, these war bosses, for them to be fighting and ruling for 100 years means that these are probably some scary-ass fucking
wars. Yeah, scary-ass bastards.
And the war is finally brought to a conclusion when Kroq-Gar manages to get in a big battle where he fights and tracks down all 6 of the war bosses and personally kills all of them. The war boss of all 6 tribes, I should say. Because it was 6 big tribes that teamed up. And this actually ties into one of Kroq-Gar's motifs, which comes from his original model. They actually didn't bring it back for his 8th edition model, but it stuck to him lore-wise, is that hanging from the saddle on his 6th edition miniature is a bunch of heads. A bunch of heads like held up by their hair. And what it is that Kroq-Gar, rather consistently throughout his stories, when he beats them, when he fights a worthy opponent, Kroq-Gar will decapitate worthy opponents and hang their heads from his saddle. He does that rather consistently. And so for this battle, he decapitates all 6 of the Savage Orcs of the Scorpion Coast, the big war bosses, which is very cool. The next time we see him is actually not super long in the grand scheme of things after that during Tehennawin, where, once again, in the interest of time, kind of looking at time, we're not going to go super into the depths. You can go check out our Tehennawin stream, but we will take a minute to discuss it. Kroq-Gar changes because he goes from being very much an automaton that literally only serves at the Slaan's behest. Like, Kroq-Gar has always been a little different than other Lizardmen because he had to wage a campaign against the demons by himself. He had to make a lot of executive decisions that normally Source would not be making for such a long period of time. And Kroq-Gar, during the war against the Skaven, is not assigned to go do anything by the Slann, because the Slann deliberated about the Skaven for a long time. A long time. If you go watch our Tehennowin stream, you can really figure out how useless the Slann were when an unexpected emergency came up. But when Tehennowin started his big oratories where he would give these grand speeches, Kroq-Gar went to one of these speeches. And Tehennowin was so convincing, was so emotive, that he managed to tap into something within Kroq-Gar to the point that Tehennowin is a lizardman politician, which is a very weird thing to say because you wouldn't really think there were many. And before Tehennowin's time, there were. Once again, go watch that stream. Yeah. But one of the things that Tehennowin would do is that he would, after he would defeat the Skaven in a battle, he would gather up all the sacrifices and he would have a place of honor at the start of a big ritual with this huge crowd of skinks and Kroq-Gars and Saurus watching him. And he would bring up like a figure of honor who had performed well in the battle or was like a notable individual who would get to perform the first sacrifice to Sotek. And they would come up and they would kill whoever the main Skaven captive was. Kroq-Gar, it's noted in 7th edition, developed a relationship with Tehennowin that was so strong that Kroq-Gar showed up to at least 100 different ceremonies, and personally at each of these ceremonies decapitated the big bad Skaven warlord of the week who had been captured. That's a lot.
It is.
I mean, think about in a 100-year war, which is not that crazy long when you're thinking about lizardman stuff. Kroq-Gar showed up to 100 different big grand ceremonies and was the figure of honor to the Prophet of Sotek.
And I think this is one of those points where we strongly recommend you go check out one of our other streams. The Tehennowin stream goes deep into why this could come about, why the lizardmen moved from being effectively programmable units made by the old ones into a living, breathing, thinking, emotive species that had their own gods, in particular, the rise of Sotek. And what it did to the lizardmen, it changed them fundamentally. And Kroq-Gar went through all of that and was sitting at the forefront of that change. And it's something that I think sometimes the writers themselves forget, particularly when they look at what the lizardmen were and what the lizardmen became. And they often take a look at what the lizardmen are in their current version, as in the version from the end times or from the old world, which currently doesn't exist, but it will eventually. And they think, oh, that's what they were always like back in the day. But they weren't. And they write the original ones as if they were those thinking, breathing, really deep, mindful entities that were to come later with the rise of Sotek. So, yeah, Kroq-Gar is a core figure in the great revolution of the lizardmen. And the Slann still, probably to this day, don't fully understand what happened.
No, yeah. I would agree. I think the Slann try not to think about it as much as possible because it bothers them. It genuinely does. But Kroq-Gar from this point forward is a very big pro-Sotek individual. Yep. And Kroq-Gar is favored by many of the gods. Something we alluded to earlier that's worth talking about a little bit is Kroq-Gar has a unique rule called the Sacred Spawning of Shodol, which is brutal. When you were fighting against him, which not only gave him not only gave him and Grimlock a 5-up ward save, which was nasty, but it has it has this horrible special rule where if you ever manage to get a wound on Kroq-Gar, if you ever wounded Kroq-Gar for any reason, whether you were from across the table with a spell or a shooting weapon or something, the old one Shodol is said to literally strike whoever hurts Kroq-Gar with like he smites you. An old one literally smites your ass. which the story, like the lore, never attempts to address.
No, it just doesn't bother.
But it's something that if you're writing a story about Kroq-Gar and you're trying to be lore accurate or doing the roleplay stuff, it's something you have to address, which is that anyone who dares lay harm on him, like in some way looking to, I guess, maybe preemptively bring his destiny or his fate to a early conclusion, an entity that is accredited with being the hand of destiny.
I mean, quite literally, Shotel himself is claimed to be doing this. His favored champion is Kroq-Gar. And if you dare lay a finger on Kroq-Gar, he goes, yeah, fuck no. Zap! 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 It's bluntly awesome. But again, when you take a look at the fact that it's destiny involved, that immediately brings you the idea of Azir. And Azir being that bolt from the blue, it all makes sense, particularly if you associate Shotel with fate. He could have set that up right at the beginning of time. Everything that's going to come to pass. If you go with the idea that the old ones, the whole Warhammer world is their plan, then everything that happens to Kroq-Gar is according to the old one's plan. So it's not that the old one's literally doing it, it's that the old one, back just before the Cataclysm, set it all off for 542 billion bolts from the blue to go off over the next 10,000 years. Go.
Yeah.
And they just come from the blue. It doesn't actually require the old one to be there because the old ones are quite literal gods. And this is the old one of fate in many respects. The old one who could do this. It's perfect and is hilarious.
Yeah, it's one of those things to think about. Think about if you are like a warrior of chaos or a Skaven or whatever, or a human that's witnessing Kroq-Gar fighting something. And the idea is, that someone mentioned earlier of that Ricky Chapman mentioned of finding this like motif about him, of that he would quite literally appear to you as a god, of that you see this big 7-foot tall lizard guy that's ripped fighting on top of a huge fucking pissed off monster. Both of them are covered in gore. He's wielding a weapon that it can wound literally anything. It's capable of wounding spirits and demons, and they just give up. Or they either collapse to the ground screaming or sitting there just dull-eyed, or they run away in terror. Yeah. He holds up his hand and literally a sun manifests his hand and obliterates a bunch of people in front of him. And then the biggest thing is that if you see anyone manage to harm him, they're struck by a bolt of fucking lightning that comes out of nowhere.
Like, how would you such a dick? I hate that character.
How would you not think you were witnessing a demigod striding the field of battle?
Yeah, and again, not one of those ones that you can dispel. So, not strictly speaking, a spell, which is always good. I love it. The character I loved. I hated playing against him because
if he can make his ward, which 1/3 chance, that ward was a bitch.
Kroq-Gar, the ever-living. God, I hated him.
Yeah. What's very interesting about that ward save as well from a lore and rules point of view is that it's one of the only ward saves that doesn't come from an item. It's just his nature.
It just has it.
Yeah, if you hit him with like the really nasty high elf spell Arcane Unforging, which like can make a magic item basically blow up or melt down, or Malekith hits him with Destroyer, can't get rid of the ward save.
Yep.
He's just destined.
Yep. A little bit like Gotrek and his Doom.
Yeah, very similar. Now, back to Kroq-Gar's story. After the big incident with the Skaven and Kroq-Gar's evolution to being a great champion of Sotek, in addition to all of his other shit, Kroq-Gar really spends most of his time kicking around various parts of the planet, where there are notes about him just kind of showing up on other continents, doing literally a lightning raid, attacking hard, destroying whatever the target is that's a threat to the Great Plan, and then he pisses off. He just leaves.
He's basically, in many respects, the hand of the Slann. Whenever there is an issue that needs to be resolved, whenever there is a big attack against them or an attack that they believe must be enacted, they send Kroq-Gar, and he descends upon the place like lightning, exceedingly fast and swift and brutal, takes out whatever is in his path, and then fucks off back home.
Yeah. Now, don't be confused though that Kroq-Gar is not a berserker type or like a blunt instrument. Kroq-Gar is a genius tactician. Mm-hmm. He is the best tactician the Lizardmen have. Of that, his mind is so sharply designed for warfare, and he uses dirty tactics. Like Kroq-Gar does not give a fuck.
Well, he doesn't have a concept of honor as we understand it, because he's ultimately not human. Many of the issues that plague the elves, the dwarves, the humans, and I'm using the word issues here carefully though, but many of the moral issues are not a consideration for him. All that matters is winning.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. And probably the biggest indication we see of this is during the event known as the Assault of the Umbral Tide, where there is the Dark Elves are being problematic, and they keep coming up through the Black Way, and Mazdamundi finally decides he's had enough. And the Slann managed to catch one of the Black Arcs by using Geomancy to literally like lift up the earth beneath it.
Yep.
And Kroq-Gar shows up outside this Black Arc, and with this big old army of Lizardmen. The Dark Elves see them coming. It's a floating city. The Dark Elves have options, and they're ready for a great siege. And Kroq-Gar looks up at it and goes, no. And turns around and basically has all of the long-range artillery of like solar engines, salamanders, things that burn, and just has them shoot the living fuck out of the Black Arc until everything on it and near it is incinerated.
Yeah, and it was, as I recall from that one, it was held in place by magic, so the freaking thing couldn't get away, which was the Slann's aspect of it. So the thing was stuck, they couldn't move, and the Dark Elves were just pummeled into non-existence.
Yeah, like they were expecting a big siege, and Kroq-Gar just looked at it and was like, nah, I'm not sieging that.
And it's not often that you find that the elves are not just outwitted when it comes to strategic warfare. Elves are clever, we all know that, but it's very rare that elves of any kind are outwitted on magic. So they often rely on the fact that they will have magical superiority. And in this case, they didn't, because they're, after all, against the Slann. And the Slann pinned them in place while the Lizardmen did what Lizardmen do.
Yeah, a woken up Slann being upset at you and you being within range is not a good time.
Yeah, true fact.
It's not a good time. There are other notable incidents, like Kroq-Gar shows up for, depending on the version of the story, Kroq-Gar shows up for like the defense of the elves during the Citadel of Dusk incident, where they cross over a magical bridge and they find an army of Dark Elves and then just immediately go home.
Bye.
Yeah, one of the things Kroq-Gar does a lot, he spends a lot of his time doing, is containing the city of Sotek. So we spoke about Sotek earlier, which was the very, very first Lizardman city that fell. And it fell in an ugly fashion because Kairos opened that big portal, and it was so bad that Kairos created a permanent, like, it can't be sealed permanently. It can be closed, but every once in a while it kind of rips back open. And Kroq-Gar spends a significant amount of his time maintaining the defenses around Sotek, because when it bursts open, it is literally a direct portal to the realm of chaos with demons just pouring out of it. We get like a note at 1237 of the Imperial calendar, the horrors at Sotek, when it breaks open. And Kroq-Gar is sent to basically just contain it, to just make sure none of the demons are able to get out and, you know, get all around Lustria, and try and make sure there are no survivors while the Slann very slowly shut the gate again.
Yeah, you got to think of this rent in reality that is sitting down there, a little bit like a tear in your clothes. Okay, just imagine that if you can. And the best you can do with this tear, because your clothes are broken now, it's got a big mass hole, is either sew it up, stitch it, pin it, do something. But you do that, but the point of weakness is still there. And it just, because there's so much pressure behind that tear, it rips every once in a while. So all the Lizardmen get sent back in to hold the place while the Slann pull out their magical knitting needles and try to knit the thing back together again. But the weakness never goes. It's always an issue that they then need to try and patch up again later. And whether that holds for 10 years or 1,000 is uncertain. The pressure eventually will break it, and in comes Kroq-Gar, because he is, after all, their leader, their 4-star general, whatever you wish to call him. He is the chap who's going to be coming along to fix the shit when it needs fixed.
Yeah, and that leads into the Crisis of Albion, where Kroq-Gar was really staged in 6th edition especially as a big deal. Because Albion, we've talked about the Albion Crisis in the past. We've done a whole stream on Albion that was super fun. And the Albion Crisis goes down, and when the Lizardmen find out that the Mists of Albion have failed and that it is vulnerable, they send Kroq-Gar. And Kroq-Gar shows up at the head of a big old pissed off army of Lizardmen. And in the canonical wrap up of the Albion story, Kroq-Gar kicks some serious ass when he shows up on Albion.
Yeah. Kroq-Gar is at the very center of everything that Lizardmen do during the Albion Crisis. He's the one who drives in, helps them organize everything, and then fucks out once it's been done. I have a little small anecdote about this one as well, because when we were organizing Pass of the Old Ones, which is a campaign that was going to follow the Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4, we were going to be covering all of this. All of it. And we were also going to discuss why the Mist came down, how they came down, and everything. And we got canonical answers for everything that got approved by Games Workshop, but none of it got written. So we have answers which aren't official, but were approved for who Be'lakor is, why Kroq-Gar did what he did, why the Mists fell, what the Truthsayers are, what all the Dark Emissary nonsense was about. All of it have been organized and approved by Games Workshop. They're like, fucking awesome tale. And we were like on the brink of doing it before, sadly, I resigned and Gav decided without me, we weren't going to write it. So it didn't happen. But hey, Lawhammer will probably cover most of that. Lawhammer will probably do it for season 2. It looks like we're going to do it. We've had chats on this side, and it looks like season 2 is definitely going to happen. So we're going to get answers on a good chunk of that, which are about as unofficial as you can get, while simultaneously were once approved by Games Workshop.
Yeah. So to do a little bit of a breakdown of Kroq-Gar's involvement. So the Albion Crisis kicks off, I want to say in early 2519, something in that ballpark.
It depends on which timeline you go with, because they have to shift it around when they decanonize the event.
Yeah, in the original version. Kroq-Gar, in the story of Albion, Kroq-Gar arrives a little bit late to the party. Compared to like the Empire and the High Elves and everyone fighting Be'lakor at the Citadel of Lead and all that other shit. But when Kroq-Gar arrives, 2 big things happen, which is first, he shows up with his initial war party and he immediately starts attacking everyone. And Kroq-Gar, once again, Kroq-Gar is not a dick in the sense that he's cruel, but Kroq-Gar is very methodical. And when he shows up, his only orders are cleanse the Isle of Warm Bloods. Now, you may notice that's a rather broad order. And there are people that fall under that probably did not deserve to die. Most notably, the Druids. The natives of Albion were under attack by the Lizardmen, especially early on. It's implied that later they might have been able to like massage things, but when Kroq-Gar shows up, he just starts killing fucking everybody.
Everything. And doesn't leave for some time, not until Conquata, which is the big city that Lizard organized. Yeah, he's there and he is slaughtering wholesale. He becomes almost the equivalent of a demon of horror for any of the local inhabitants, because he is killing and killing. Killing.
He's there for 2 years. My bad. I actually just looked at it.
Cripes, there we go.
Yeah, because it takes them a year to restore the mists, and then he's there for another year before he comes back. Now, in 6th edition, we get a note that he comes back to Heshwaddle because it's under attack by this nasty guy called Vashtar the Tormentor, and they kind of leave it at that. 7th edition became my favorite edition of all time because we got like a 4-page spread about the siege of Heshwaddle. It's like a full story, and it's awesome. And in that story, it's a little funny because when you look back on it from nowadays perspective, because in the original version, Heshwaddle is put under assault by Vashnar, which is a combined army of Chaos Dwarves, Dark Elves, Demons, and Warriors of Chaos. Like, this is a huge horde of chaos that comes smashing down on the Lizardmen's northernmost city. And the siege lasts for, I want to say it lasts for 2-3 months, because I think it's 3 lunar cycles. But it lasts for a while. And in the original version of the story, the reason that it lasts for so long is because Mazdamundi is gone, because they find some new sacred plaques, and he goes off to contemplate them in an area that's more resonant with the geomantic web.
Mazdamundi.
Oh, Mazdamundi. So he goes off on like a hiatus. So he's not there, and the skinks are having a hard time waking the Slann up to defend the city, which is funny and very Slann.
Come on!
And Kroq-Gar, notably, is also gone because he's an Albion halfway across the fucking world. So the city is vulnerable. So you have this really big siege. Tic-Tac-Toe leads the defenses, where Tic-Tac-Toe actually gets most of his story, and he's actually a badass in that story. Name. Yeah, it's a stupid name, but it's a very fun story. And in the climax of the story, I don't remember how many months Tic-Tac-Toe's held them at bar, because he's like the forward scout of Heshwaddle, so he's leading a lot of the outer defenses. But Vashnar the Tormentor surrounded the city. He's got hell cannons, which have never been seen in Lustria before, pounding away at the magical dome barrier, and it's starting to crack and fall apart under the war machines of the Chaos Dwarfs, which says a lot about Chaos Dwarf technology.
It does.
But right as the barrier is about to fall and the city is about to be fully attacked and likely fall, because Vashnar the Tormentor is a big Slaanesh Lord of Chaos that rides on a Chaos Dragon, very spooky. Mazdamundi shows up, and Mazdamundi is pissed. Like, he's so angry that imagine coming back to your house and it's just under attack by hooligans. So Mazdamundi shows up and like creates a big earthquake that splits the army in half, separating the army into 2 halves. And then immediately behind him, Kroq-Gar rolls up. Because Kroq-Gar, Mazdamundi had opened a portal and said, "Come home right now." And Kroq-Gar shows up, and the battle literally starts with Vashnar the Tormentor sweeping up into his saddle, coming down from the skies, and Kroq-Gar charging forward to meet him. And that's how the battle kicks off, which is such a badass opening. And the battle lasts, I want to say, for 3 days. It lasts for multiple days. And on the final day of the battle, as Vashnar's army is broken, the dragon is killed by Grimlock and Kroq-Gar. The dragon's brought down, and Kroq-Gar duels with Vashnar and decapitates him to then hang his head from his saddle. Now, 8th edition, the story gets a bit dumber because they forget about Albion, so Kroq-Gar was just like missing for several months, with no explanation for where he was, which is very silly. But Kroq-Gar, this is a guy that he can't be everywhere at once, but where he is, the Lizardmen are, it's a bad time to be in front of him.
Yeah, in many respects, it's a little bit like Total War. And by that, I mean, wherever the hell that character is where you don't want to be. Mm-hmm. And that's the case with almost all the special characters in Total War, obviously. But it's a little bit like that. They do so much better when he's around. And that's because he is pretty much their oldest warrior.
Yeah. Like, the only lizard man, so not a Slann, but the only other lizard man that's older than Kroq-Gar is probably Nakai. Because Nakai is a true first generation spawning. But Kroq-Gar he's peak Saurus.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly.
And they are the epitome of what it is to be a lizardman warrior. And he's their oldest one. He's right there, and he's not just a fighter. He's also a thinker. And he's also one who's quite passionate because of, obviously, the influence of Sotek.
Yeah. Also, the last thing I can remember is they're actually, in the Lustria book, we do get a note about the time he lures he destroys a Norscan army that had invaded Lustria. which the fall of Eric Redax, I think, which was that was a bad time for them because they basically sent out some skink scouts to harass the Norskins and piss them off, and the Norskins chased them across a fjord. So like, a place where the river is a bit more crossable. And just as the Norskin army is halfway across this giant river, Kroq-Gar shows up out of the jungle on the opposite side on his big T-Rex, and the Norskins are like, uh-oh. And then when they turn around to go back the other way, there's already a giant army of lizardmen waiting for them. And so they're just stuck in this river with horrible big T-Rex Cold One army on one side, and then giant regular lizardman army on the other side. They just get sandwiched, and it's bad. It was a bad time for them. All right, let's get caught up on Super Chats, and then that'll be it for today.
Yeah, do ourselves a quick summary, and we'll be done.
Yep. We were here. Ricky Chapman, have you seen the Guardians fan animation? Yes, I have. I love that animation. Kroq-Gar's in it. I think. It's an animation that has the Kroq-Gar, Tehinuin, Gorok, and Kroq-Gar fighting like back to back. Yeah, it's very silly, but very fun.
Yeah. I've seen that one, Ricky.
Yeah, that one always the part where Kroq-Gar crushes the Chaos Warrior's head is so funny to me because the audio doesn't quite match with it because it would have been it should have been a horrific sound, but it's more of just like a just very funny to me. Joe Miller, Kroq-Gar, you killed my dog. Scroll.
If only Kroq-Gar had retired. Yeah, to be brought back into the fold by Skrulk.
Yeah, Kroq-Gar. Yeah, that was definitely Kroq-Gar's John Wick moment when Skrulk kills his dog and Skrulk thinks he's won. Oh no. Nope. That's honestly the most Skaven thing that could have happened in that moment is Skrulk killing and being like, I won! Yes! And then everything's gone according to plan. Then the Kroq-Gar says something, he's like, oh no!
Yep, too fast.
Jonathan Scott, Kroq-Gar having a cyborg arm means Dinobots are canon. Technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
Totally agree.
Watchdog 3079. Would there have been a scenario where Kroq-Gar was sent to censure Tehinuin for his early Sotek proclamations?
Possibly.
That would have been a cool fucking story.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Watchdog, particularly the conversion of Kroq-Gar to their way of thinking, because he is, in many respects, the attack dog of the Slan. The Slan send him places where they want things done, and Tehinuin was a problem that they left to fester for some time and eventually decided they had to try and do something with. That would be a really fun story.
Yeah, I think this would have been not only the best version, but the most logical version of the story would be that Kroq-Gar would have been sent down to put down an aberration, which is Tehinuin, but then Tehinuin converts him, which makes the Slan go, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, superb.
Because and I'll say this a million times. We've said it on this stream. We've said it on the Tehinuin stream. I'll say it when we eventually do a Mazdamundi stream of that. If you tell the story of Tehinuin ever in a novel, which I hope they do someday, because I would love that. But if it's not from the Slan's perspective, the most terrifying era of their lives, where they feel like they are losing control of their own tools, then you're doing it wrong.
Yep, agreed. Hard.
Ricky Chapman, Lorebeards, how many named characters have met Kroq-Gar? None. None. Because everyone, it's very much implied that it's like Skulltaker. Everyone who's met him has died. So in order to meet him, you can't be a character that needs to be alive.
I mean, Mazdamundi.
Well, okay. Sorry, fought.
I imagine Nakai.
Yeah, pretty much all of the Lizardman characters have met him. But I'm assuming you're talking about non-Lizardmen.
Yeah.
The most realistic character who would have maybe not met but seen Kroq-Gar would probably have been Marco Colombo.
I think it's also very likely that Marathi and him have crossed swords and a couple of times.
Yeah, probably some dark elves.
Some of the dark elves have been down that way. High elves, possibly. Maybe even someone like Ashlyn may have crossed at a distance. It's not one of those characters that, unlike Total War would suggest, where they're all having conversations with each other every other day, diplomatic outreaches, and broadly speaking, fighting every other weekend. In the Warhammer world as it stands, most of the characters that Kroq-Gar has gone against have received exactly what Kroq-Gar is there to do, the receiving end of his weapon.
Yeah, there is a world where someone, if they wanted to try and flesh out things as much as they could and take things to their extremes, Kroq-Gar's whole he's fought on every continent, if you take it to its natural conclusion, means that he's probably met the Cathayan dragons.
Yeah, that seems likely to me. I may even have been beaten down a couple of times by them as well. One of
it's likely Kroq-Gar has suffered plenty of defeats.
Oh yeah, totally. And he's also probably met a good number of demons that are named as well.
Oh yeah, I would be shocked if he has not fought the likes of Kugath or Skarbrand or one of those other ones.
Yep.
Because like, if you're dealing with a situation where someone that big and bad, Kroq-Gar is the natural thing to the Salon go, kill that.
And further, just think about how many demons that he faced during the Cataclysm. When these demons were first forming their characters, if you go with some versions of the background, or were first manifesting, if you go with others, then he's probably fought a good number of them during that time. Yeah,
there's a story somewhere about what demon took his arm.
Yep,
like who successfully ripped his arm off of his body during the Cataclysm, because there's a fun story there.
There is.
Was it Skulltaker? Was it some other? Was it a demon that we wouldn't expect? Like, who knows what it could have been? But that
is it. So I'm going to make a super short outro, because not only of the time, but because just talking is hard for me today for obvious reasons. So let's keep this very clean. Kroq-Gar sucks. I mean, no. I think Kroq-Gar the Ever-Living sucks, because he was an absolute arse on the battlefield. And this is what most of the world thinks about him. Because Kroq-Gar is that right hand of the Slann that is sent out to... I love this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's very funny. Me, Grimlock King. I can work with this.
Oh, Christ, that's funny.
Good now.
100%. Yes, he is the most 80s of characters, because he rides Grimlock and he is the Ever-Living. But beyond that, the world is terrified of being on the receiving end of it, that which knows of him, of course. And depending on which version of the Lizardman, most of the world is aware of the legends of this almost godlike Lizardman, or alternatively, none of them are, because the Lizardmen never talk to anyone else and they play their own arms-folded game. Whichever version of the background you go with, he is extraordinarily powerful. Not because he's got the most magic. He has pretty much none. Not because he is physically the toughest. He isn't. There are so many characters that are more powerful and stronger. Not because he's got the best mount. He doesn't. But because he is at the head of one of the most consistently powerful armies that the Warhammer world has to offer. And that is the Lizardmen. He is effectively the equivalent over in the Empire of the Reichsmarshal, or one of the dragons over, if we go to Cathay. He is someone who can move entire peoples, because he has the complete support of the Slann. He pulls in the armies. He is also so old, he's fought everything. He knows how everything works. He's fought humans, he's fought dwarves, he's fought elves, he's fought demons, he's fought chaos, he's fought undead, he's even fought fishmen repeatedly. And he's won. There's a reason he's the right hand of the Slann. It's because he is bloody good at his job, which means he also knows when to withdraw. He also knows when he's not going to win a fight and chooses his fights carefully, because he's a very good general who is not weighed down by the morality of the other species. He's not weighed down by loose concepts of evil and good. He's weighed down by win and loss. He's weighed down by what is his place in the world by order of not just the old ones, but the Lizardman gods, because he is also a religious man who has his own passions. And they are used by the Slann to extraordinary effect. of all the characters in the Warhammer world, in many respects, he's one of the true self-made lizardmen. Yes, he's been given perfect genetics that allow him to last pretty much forever. In many respects, defying the supposed immortality of species like the elves, he is, in many respects, what true immortality is. He's only going to die when he falls in battle. But unlike many of the other more passionate species, he chooses his battles carefully. And even when he is penned in, as he proved right at the beginning at the Cataclysm, when he is surrounded, he is not so easy to beat. The entirety of the hordes of chaos that were attacking down in Lustria attempted to take that lizard man out and failed. He fought his way in and he fought his way right back out again. And that is the character who would never allow himself to get into that sort of position again, that managed to survive for thousands of years afterwards, fighting every faction that the Warhammer world has to offer. In some respects, he is the perfect general, because he is the one who knows when to back off. Unlike other species who will often fall to pride, elves are particularly known for this. They get angry. They want to win. They won't be defeated. They can't allow that to occur. I won't let that thing cross me. He doesn't get angry like that. That's not the lizardman way. His passions lie in different places. If he can't win, he'll just back off and he'll fight another day for the surprise Carnosaur attack from hell when you don't expect a lightning assault, when you yourself are, I don't know, Trojan warring your way towards a happy party and he jumps out of the giant horse or the Warhammer equivalent. He is always there to strike back and take the victory that the lizardmen deserve. And he doesn't stop. This is the important part of the Albion story that's lost, because Albion's story is largely lost to the current canon, and that is all warm bloods are killed. He doesn't stop. All of them are killed because he is a machine of destruction that will ensure that victory is seized. And it is absolutely horrendous, truly awful. The dispassionate, almost psychotic, as humans would view it, method that he takes down his enemies. He is a perfect killing machine, as good old Kroq would one day find out. I think the character is brilliant. Really, really like him. And he's the sort of character that makes other characters like, oh my goodness, just as I say that, someone brings it up. Other characters like Skulltaker make not a great deal of sense, because Skulltaker would have been chasing him forever. In fact, a good story would be Skulltaker losing to him and Skulltaker not taking that particularly well. But of course, we know Skulltaker's story is not that. This is a character that is deeply ingrained into the entirety of the Warhammer world, yet somehow, because of the very nature of how it's been written, every writer forgets it. No writer mentions him. He has almost no major victories or really important events attached to him anywhere outside of a Lizardman army list, even though he has been all over the world. This is a classic example of Games Workshop creating characters within just the realms of a single book, rather than viewing the more holistic view, if you will, all of their setting together. And whenever they bring the new book to bear, they have a moment where they go, what do we have elsewhere? And does it impact what we're creating here? Kroq-Gar is the character who puts up his big claw, burning with the sun, and says, what the fuck about me? Why aren't I in the Chaos Army list repeatedly fucking with their shit? Why aren't I in every army list being mentioned about the time that Kroq-Gar arrived and totally fucked us up? Because that is who he is. Great character, terribly utilized by Games Workshop, but super fun to play on the Total War side.
Yeah. The last
Happy birthday!
Yeah, thank you. The last thing I want to say about him, because it's the only thing I forgot to say earlier, is that the last fun thing about Kroq-Gar is he does have one less unique rule, which is his Attune to the Beast rule, which is just worth mentioning. Which is that Carnosaurs, fun fact about them, is that despite how they may look in like Total War and stuff, in the actual canon of the lore and the tabletop, back in Fantasy, Kroq-Gar, Carnosaurs were controllable by Old Bloods and Scar veterans until they got the taste of blood. Yeah. Like the moment they did a single wound or killed a single model, they were completely out of your control for the rest of the game. They would just go off and frenzy, and the Old Bloods were just basically holding on for dear life. Like an Old Blood, like these many-century ancient guys can control them until they got wetted in battle, and then they're just like, "Oh my god, please go the right direction." Whereas Kroq-Gar does not have that problem. Like Carnosaurs he ride are
all the beasts just bow to him,
completely under his control.
Yeah. I'd also like to say at the very end, thank you all for putting up with my inability to get any of my facts straight today. Take everything I said today with a certain pinch of salt, because my brain is everywhere. Nevertheless, I'll say it with a certain amount of, I don't know, confidence. I make you believe it all. Trust Sotek today. That much is certain. Ryan knows his stuff. Beyond that, I will also say thank you very much to everybody who has dropped money over in the GoFundMe for my mum, because her life has been changed by your generosity. I'm not going to get many opportunities to say thank you. I'm also just going to say, fuck me, Matt Mercer. If you ever watch this video, it's never happening. $1,000. Fucking hell. Thank you so much. That's perhaps something I should say to him directly. But holy fuck sticks. My mum loves you. She's never met you. She's blind. She will never see you, but she loves you. What a day.
Such a Chad. He's such a Chad.
He's just amazing. Holy crap. But yes, thank you all so much. Your generosity has been astonishing. And my mum, who has literally no money or a bank account just now, is actually in a place where she can afford to pay her bills. And it's just brilliant. Thanks. Cheer.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for taking care of us here on Lorebeards. We really appreciate it, and always will.
Yeah, totally. And if you caught the start of the stream, I was finding it difficult not to be crying for exactly that reason. Thanks all. You kick ass. And I'm really looking forward to being back and hopefully being a bit more consistent over the next few days.
Yeah. But in any event, that's us done for today. We hope you all had fun. Thank you again very much for all the questions and support and hanging out with us. We're going to get the hell out of here. We will be back on Tuesday.
This is a good one. It's Marathi.
It's finally here. It's finally happening.
It's what happens if Marathi had founded the colleges of magic and not Teclis. This is a fascinating one, both in terms of how that could happen and once it does happen, what does it mean? Because I think this is one that could significantly change not just the empire, but arguably the world.
Oh yeah, I would say so. This one's going to be genuinely very fun, and it is our second to last stop on the Marathi saga. Because next Sunday, at long last, will be the first ever Lorebeards Age of Sigmar stream, where we're going to tackle Marathi.
I'm looking forward to this so much. I kind of love Marathi, and a lot of my love of Marathi has spawned from a lot of what we discussed when we were going through Marathi in our previous streams. That character that, when you look into the depths of what she offers, it's actually surprisingly brilliant. But when you just look at how they wrote her, she's truly awful. And I don't mean surprisingly brilliant as in she's not awful. She's awful. But she's awfully written in lots of different places.
It's boring. Yeah.
But once you pull all of it together, you're just left going, oh, wow. And Age of Sigmar kind of runs with the oh, wow version, rather than running with the rather blank version that the surface suggests she might be, rather than looking deeper into everything that lore offers. So I'm really looking forward to this Sunday. So next Sunday, do make sure you're along with us.
Yep. And with that, we'll see you guys later. Also, everyone say bye to Twitch, because we're going to explode them. So everyone on Twitch is about to die.
Goodbye. You guys.
Bye forever. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.